You keep finding pennies, feathers, and repeating numbers that seem to appear at exactly the moment you are thinking about your father. You have felt a sudden chill at night, remembered something for no obvious reason, or paused when a song, a breeze, or an ordinary place brought him sharply back to your mind. My beloved child, those memories have carried a weight because there are things you never got to say. There are feelings you pushed down because life kept moving and you had to keep moving with it. But the grief you carried quietly has never meant that your love was forgotten. Tonight, let yourself slow down and listen to what this moment is asking you to hear. Archangel Michael says a message has been waiting for the right moment to reach your heart, not through an ordinary conversation, but through the memories, emotions, and inner knowing that have stayed with you. The central message is one of love, forgiveness, courage, and the strength you are being called to carry forward. Your Father wants you to know that He saw far more than you ever realized. He saw the battles you kept private. He saw the nights when you had to wipe your own tears and then act as though everything was fine the next morning. He saw the mistakes you believed might have disappointed Him. He saw the moments when you questioned yourself, questioned your future, and wondered whether you were still capable of becoming the person you once hoped to be. He says He is proud of you. He is proud that you kept going when nobody knew how difficult it was. He is proud of the fact that you are still here, still trying, still learning, still surviving, and still finding reasons to move forward. And there is something else you need to release. The guilt over everything you did not get to say before he passed. You have replayed conversations in your mind. You have thought about the apology you wish you had given, the gratitude you wish you had expressed, the words of love you thought there would be more time to speak. But your Father does not want you trapped inside those unfinished moments. He wants you to understand that love was never measured only by the conversations you had. He knew your love through your presence, your actions, your concern, and the life you shared. You were never required to be perfect for Him to love you. He wants you to stop punishing yourself for being human. And now, as you think about the future, there is another warning in this message. Be careful about who you trust. Someone close to you may appear supportive while carrying envy underneath the surface. A smile can hide resentment. A familiar connection can still become unhealthy. You do not need to accuse anyone or create conflict. You simply need to pay attention. When something feels wrong, do not ignore yourself just to keep another person comfortable. Your Father says a major decision may be approaching, and your own discernment matters. Listen carefully to that quiet feeling inside you. Not every opportunity that looks successful is meant for you. Some things can arrive dressed like opportunity while actually pulling you away from peace. You may soon receive a call, message, invitation, or proposal that feels unusual from the beginning. Slow down before you commit. Think clearly. Pray. Notice what happens in your spirit when you consider saying yes. At the same time, do not allow fear to prevent you from recognizing the right door. Your Father says you have spent too much time believing that your pain meant you were broken. He wants you to see it differently. The difficult seasons reshaped you. The suffering you endured did not erase your worth. It developed a strength you may not have recognized while you were in the middle of it. You are not cursed, you are chosen. and that choice carries responsibility. It means you have to stop shrinking your dreams because other people are uncomfortable with your growth. Someone may try to claim credit for the progress coming into your life. Someone may suddenly become interested in you once they see your success. Someone who ignored your potential may later act as though they always believed in you. Do not waste your energy proving who was there and who was not. Keep walking. Your father's legacy is not about revenge. It is about becoming. There may have been people he did not trust even while he was alive. Some of those same dynamics may still exist around you in different forms. Their methods may have changed, but the effect can be similar, making you question yourself so someone else can feel bigger. Do not fight every battle. Protect your peace and keep moving. Your father's message is that you have already survived battles most people never knew you were fighting. You do not have to make every struggle visible in order for your strength to be real. He also wants you to stop thinking that his imperfections erased his love for you. He says plainly that he was not perfect. He made mistakes. He had limitations. But his love for you was real. That matters. And the guilt you have carried over what happened before his passing does not need to become a permanent sentence. Let yourself breathe. The dreams you have had about him have also become deeply meaningful to you. In those dreams, you may remember his face, his voice, his hands, a particular room, or simply the feeling that he was close. Whether you understand those experiences spiritually or emotionally, they have become part of the way you process his absence. The pennies, feathers, repeating numbers, music, street signs, sudden memories, and unexpected moments of warmth in the original message are presented as signs. Let them remind you of what he meant to you without allowing fear to control you. And there is a larger change taking place in your life. You may be entering a season of movement that could involve a physical relocation, a change in work, a shift in your relationships, or a deeper spiritual repositioning. The important part is that your life may no longer fit the way it once did. What used to feel normal may begin to feel too small. What you once tolerated may become impossible to tolerate. What you once chased may stop mattering. That change can feel uncomfortable at first. It can even look like chaos. But sometimes a life has to be rearranged before it can be rebuilt. There is also someone new the message points toward. This person is described as someone who will feel like home, not because they repeat the past, but because they support the future. You will not have to become smaller to keep them. You will not have to perform for their approval. There will be a sense of steadiness rather than confusion. Do not push away healthy love simply because unhealthy love taught you to be suspicious of everything. But do not rush simply because you are lonely either. Let peace be part of the evidence. And there is another part of this message your father wants you to hear. You were never a mistake. Even during periods when life made you feel like a burden, your existence mattered. You brought something into the world that cannot be replaced. You carry part of a story that began before you and will continue through you. Stop dimming your light so other people can remain comfortable. Your growth may irritate people who have benefited from your insecurity. Let that happen without turning it into a war. You do not have to punish anyone. You just have to become more honest about who you are. King. There are burdens you have been carrying for other people that were never yours to hold. Some belong to family. Some belong to relationships. Some belong to old expectations. Some belong to memories you keep revisiting because you think suffering over them proves that you cared. King. It does not. King. You can love someone and still release what is hurting you. King. You can remember the past without living inside it. King. You can honor your father without sacrificing your future. King. My beloved child, there is a point in healing where you have to stop asking whether you are allowed to move forward and simply begin. King. A door is opening. King. The message describes a legal matter or financial opportunity developing quietly in the background. It speaks of a letter that carries more than words and may represent a key to something new. Receive that idea carefully without building your life around a prediction. King. The deeper message is to stay attentive to practical opportunities and to make wise decisions when they appear. King. And if money comes into your life, use it with wisdom. Do not spend simply to prove that you have finally received something. Think about what genuinely strengthens your future. King. Your Father wants you to build, not merely consume. King. There may also be a return from someone in your past. King. Be careful. King. Not everyone who comes back belongs in your life again. King. Some people return because they miss access to you, not because they have changed. Some connections are meant to be released rather than revived. You are allowed to say no without explaining yourself endlessly. King. The person who left did not destroy your identity. The experience revealed where you needed to grow. King. Now rise from it. King. You are entering a season where your presence may begin to feel stronger. Your dreams may seem more vivid. Your emotions may become more noticeable. You may realize how deeply you have absorbed the moods of the people around you. King. The message describes this as spiritual awakening and points to your Father as a spiritual protector. King. Whether you experience that literally or as a powerful way of describing the bond you still carry, the invitation is the same. Pay closer attention to what strengthens your spirit and what drains it. King. You do not have to carry every emotion in the room. King. You do not have to fix everyone. King. You do not have to absorb pain simply because you are sensitive enough to notice it. King. Protect your inner life. King. There is also healing connected to your inner child, the part of you that still longs to hear, "You did well." King. So hear it now. King. You did well. King. You kept going. King. You survived moments that made you wonder whether you would. King. You learned. King. You adapted. King. And even when you failed, you continued. King. Your Father says he is proud. King. He sees you as the quiet backbone, the person who often carries more responsibility than others realize, the one who holds together pieces of the family story even when nobody recognizes the effort. King. He wants you to know your future is brighter than your fear. King. Your light is larger than your doubt. King. Keep going. King. And I want you to pause here for a moment. Take one slow breath. Let your shoulders relax. You don't have to force an emotional response. Just let the words settle where they need to settle. King. If something in this message speaks to your heart, you can leave a simple comment and share what you're carrying today. King. Now return your attention to the deeper message. King. Your Father's love is being framed here as something that does not end simply because physical life ends. The relationship changes, the memories change, the way you carry him changes. But the influence remains. You may hear a song and remember him. You may catch a familiar scent. You may see a place you once visited together. You may find yourself laughing at a memory you thought would only make you cry. Those moments can become part of how love survives grief. And when the next good thing arrives, do not sabotage it because you are afraid it will disappear. Your Father wants you to receive. You have spent enough time surviving. You deserve room for joy. You deserve rest. You deserve healthy love. You deserve a future that is not controlled by what happened before. The message also speaks about an illness, fear, or diagnosis, and declares that it will not define you. Hold that part with care. Whatever is happening in your actual life, seek appropriate support and follow trustworthy medical guidance. Spiritually, the message is asking you not to let fear become your identity. Fear can visit without becoming your home. Your Father also wants you to prepare your surroundings for the next season. Clean your room, clear unnecessary clutter, write down the thoughts you have been carrying. Make emotional space, make physical space, make spiritual space. Sometimes a new chapter begins with very ordinary acts of preparation. You do not need to know every detail of what comes next. You need to know the next honest step. That may be a conversation, a boundary, an application, a move, a decision, an apology, a goodbye, a new beginning. Your Father's role in the message is not to make every choice for you, but to remind you that you can make those choices with courage. He says, in essence, don't hide your truth, don't shrink your dreams. Live fully. Let your laughter be loud. Let your love be generous. Let your spirit breathe. Do not build your life around the fear of upsetting people who are committed to misunderstanding you. There are rooms you have outgrown. There are relationships that belong in a previous chapter. There are versions of yourself you no longer need to protect. Release them without shame. Your Father says you are allowed to rest. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to move on from people who only recognize the person you used to be. And there is something especially important about your future. You are being encouraged to break generational patterns. The message speaks about generational pain ending with you. That means choosing healthier responses, clearer boundaries, stronger self-respect, and a more peaceful example for the people who come after you. You are not just healing your own life. You may be changing what becomes normal for the next generation. That is a serious kind of legacy. Not money. Not land. Wisdom. Strength. Character. Courage. Love. That is the spiritual inheritance being described here. And your Father wants you to understand that inheritance cannot be stolen by someone else's opinion. Someone may gossip. Someone may doubt you. Someone may misunderstand your choices. Let them. Your task is not to convince everyone. Your task is to live truthfully. There will be moments when you feel tempted to go back to what is familiar simply because familiar feels safer. But familiar is not always healthy. Choose what gives you peace. Choose what lets you become more honest. Choose what strengthens the future instead of feeding an old wound. Archangel Michael reminds you that the message is about divine timing, readiness, and alignment. The source speaks of a shift occurring quickly and even mentions 72 hours and signs appearing over 11 days. Treat those as part of the spiritual framing of the message, not as guarantees that a particular event must happen on a fixed schedule. The important point is this: be awake. Pay attention. Notice kindness. Notice clarity. Notice opportunities. Notice what leaves you peaceful and what consistently leaves you exhausted. There may come a moment when someone says a simple sentence that reaches you at exactly the right time. There may be a dream you cannot forget. There may be a decision that suddenly becomes clearer. Do not ignore your wisdom. Your Father wants to leave you with this: you are more than your past. You are more than your wounds. You are more than your delays. You are more than the mistakes you made. Your worth is not determined by productivity, recognition, or other people's approval. You are worthy of love while you are still becoming. And when you think about the things you regret most, allow yourself to put them down. You do not need to carry one memory forever just because it hurts. You can forgive yourself. You can release the need to rewrite the past. You can finally allow joy to be part of your life again. When the hard days come, and they may, you can whisper, "Dad, walk with me." Let those words remind you to slow down, remember what matters, and choose the kind of person He would have wanted you to become. A crown is used in the original message as an image of dignity, calling, and protection. Let that picture remind you that your life still has value even when you do not feel powerful. You are protected by the values you carry. You are aligned when your actions match your convictions. You are ready when you stop waiting for permission to become yourself. The message ultimately asks you to carry your Father's love like armor, but not armor that makes you hard. Armor that gives you courage while allowing you to remain tender. Let love protect you without turning you cold. Let grief teach you without defining you. Let memory strengthen you without trapping you in yesterday. And when you think of Him, remember not only the loss. Remember the laughter. Remember the ordinary moments. Remember the lessons. Remember the things He did well. Remember what you want to carry forward. You are the continuation of a story. You are not required to repeat every chapter. You can write a different one. There may be a small moment in your near future that seems insignificant at first. A conversation, an idea, a meeting, a message, a place you unexpectedly visit. Yet later, you may look back and realize that moment changed the direction of your life. You do not need to force it. Let life unfold. Your Father's message repeatedly returns to the same essential truth. Stop begging for crumbs when you were made for a life of fullness. Stop asking permission to shine. Stop apologizing for healing. You are allowed to become more peaceful. You are allowed to become more confident. You are allowed to become more selective about who gets access to your life. And when you become that person, some people will not understand. That's okay. Not everyone is meant to come with you. My beloved child, close your eyes for a moment if that feels comfortable. Place your hand over your heart and breathe slowly. Think about your father. Think about the love you shared. Think about the words you never got to say. Now let those words come out in your own way. You can whisper them. Write them. Cry them. Speak them in prayer. Say, I love you. Say, I forgive you. Say, please forgive me. Say, thank you. You do not need a perfect speech. You only need honesty. The message says that every I love you left unsaid can still be carried in your heart, and every tear can become part of your healing. So let yourself feel what you feel. You do not have to be strong every second. You can be tired. You can be angry. You can be confused. You can be hopeful. You can be joyful. You can be all of those things without becoming less worthy of love. Your Father says He loves all versions of you, especially the ones you hide because you think they are too messy to deserve acceptance. And that leads to the moment where the message becomes less about what is happening beyond you and more about what you are going to do here, now, with the life you still have. Speak your truth. Honor your time. Protect your peace. Love deeply. Build something meaningful. Keep your heart open to what is good. And do not let fear make your decisions for you. Archangel Michael says, this is your activation. The shift begins with the way you choose to live. Not with waiting. Not with obsessively searching for signs. Not with proving yourself. With living. With courage. With trust. With action. Your Father's image in this message is of a man standing with his arms folded, watching you with pride, telling you that you are ready. Ready to go. Ready to become what you were meant to become. Ready to carry the best parts of what you were given while leaving behind what needs to end. And when you forget who you are, look up. Remember that love shaped you. Remember that you survived. Remember that you can begin again. There is no need to return to the version of yourself built only for survival. You are allowed to build a life where peace, purpose, and joy have room to exist. The final promise is simple. Your Father's influence can remain with you in the way you choose, the way you love, the way you show courage, and the way you continue when life becomes difficult. You may still grieve. You may still have hard days. But grief does not mean you have failed to heal. It means someone mattered. And the fact that you can still love someone you can no longer physically hold is evidence of how deep that bond was. Your future does not erase your past. It carries what was valuable forward. You are the heartbeat of a legacy. You are the flame of a family story. You are someone who can take what was beautiful, repair what was painful, and create something healthier from both. And perhaps the most powerful thing you can do now is live well. Laugh again. Rest again. Love again. Dream again. Build again. Do not make your father's memory a reason to stop living. Let it become a reason to live more fully. When a song brings him back, let yourself smile. When a breeze makes you pause, take a breath. When an old memory appears, let it come and let it go. When a new opportunity arrives, meet it with wisdom instead of fear. When someone treats you with genuine kindness, allow yourself to receive it. And when you walk into a room where you once felt invisible, remember that you do not need anyone's permission to belong there. Your father's message is ultimately asking you to become free. Free from guilt. Free from shrinking. Free from the need to explain every boundary. Free from old identities. Free from the belief that suffering is the only proof of love. You can love your father deeply and still build a joyful life. You can honor where you came from and still become someone new. You can carry his love without carrying all the weight of his loss. And when the time comes that someone else needs strength, your own experience will help you know what to say. That is how love continues. That is how wisdom travels. That is how a legacy becomes larger than one lifetime. Archangel Michael says the message has been carried through light, protection, and divine purpose, and that what matters now is how you respond to it. So respond by living. Respond by healing. Respond by choosing what is good. Respond by becoming courageous enough to release what no longer belongs in your future. You may encounter people who reveal their true intentions. Believe what they show you. You may receive ideas that arrive with unusual clarity. Write them down. You may realize that your priorities are changing. Allow them to change. You may discover that you no longer want what you once chased. Do not force yourself to want it again. Growth can be quiet. Sometimes the biggest transformation happens before anyone else notices. And there may come a day when you look back and realize that the moment everything changed was not loud at all. It was simply the moment you chose yourself with peace. The moment you stopped negotiating with what was hurting you. The moment you believed you were worthy of more. The moment you stopped waiting for someone else to give you permission to shine. That is where the new chapter begins. My beloved child, take another slow breath. Let the grief soften. Let the love remain. Let the future open one step at a time. Your father's voice in this message is asking you to remember one final thing before we continue. You were never forgotten. You were seen. You were loved. You mattered. And the life ahead of you still has meaning. You may not know exactly what tomorrow holds, but you can choose how you meet it. With courage. With wisdom. With compassion. with faith, and with the love you carry forward. So walk. Keep going. Rise. Do not let fear become your identity. Do not let old wounds write every new chapter. Do not let other people's limitations become the limits of your future. Carry the best of what you were given. Release what needs to end. And when you need strength, place your hand on your heart and remember the words this message keeps returning to. You are deeply loved. You are still here. You are still becoming. And you are allowed to live fully. There is another part of your Father's message that asks you to look at the way you have been carrying sorrow. You have spent so long being the strong one that you may have forgotten what it feels like to simply be held by love. You have learned how to keep functioning while your heart was still processing what happened. Your Father wants that to change. He wants you to stop believing that grief has to remain heavy forever in order to prove that you cared. You can remember him and still smile. You can miss him and still build a beautiful life. You can have a peaceful day without feeling as though you have betrayed the memory of the person you lost. He saw the tears you never explained. He saw the moments when your voice became quiet because you could not find the right words. He saw the nights when you wondered why you were still hurting after everyone else seemed to have moved on. And the message says that heaven heard those cries too. Your Father wants you to release the guilt connected to time, the days when you did not call, the conversation that ended too quickly, the things you thought you would say later, the affection you assumed there would always be another chance to express. There was a point when you believed that you had missed your opportunity. He wants you to understand that love does not become meaningless because a sentence was left unsaid. You knew him. He knew you. There was a bond between you that was larger than one conversation. So forgive yourself for not knowing how much time you had. You were living with the information you had at the time. You could not see the future. You could not know exactly when life would change. If you're ready to release the guilt and receive the peace your heart has been waiting for, type Amen in the comments. Let that simple word be your declaration that you are choosing forgiveness over regret and peace over the weight of yesterday. Stop judging your past self with knowledge you only gained afterward. That is one of the burdens you have been carrying for too long. And as you release it, something else begins to shift. The message describes a period when your life may begin moving faster than it has in a long time. Things that seemed stuck may suddenly begin to move. Conversations that went nowhere may reopen. An opportunity may appear where you expected another dead end. You may feel as though several pieces are arriving at once. Do not let the speed frighten you. You have spent enough time waiting. Your Father's message says there is a difference between delay and denial. A delay can be part of preparation. It can give you time to become strong enough to handle what you prayed for. Some things had to fall apart because you were building your future on structures that could not support it. That did not make those years meaningless. They taught you what you will no longer accept. They showed you where your boundaries needed to become stronger. They forced you to discover abilities you might never have developed under easier circumstances. King. Now that you know what you know, do not go backward simply because the familiar feels safe. King. The message also warns that someone from your past may try to return. King. You may hear from a person who once took your attention, kindness, or love for granted. Their return could create confusion, because memories can make unhealthy relationships look better than they actually were. King. Your father tells you to look at the pattern, not the promise. King. Listen to what they say, but pay even more attention to what they consistently do. King. You do not have to reopen a door just because someone knocks. King. Some relationships were meant to teach you, not remain with you forever. King. Let that truth be enough. King. There is also a call to stop settling in other areas of your life. King. Do not settle for work that continually destroys your peace, simply because you are afraid to begin again. King. Do not settle for affection that makes you question your value. King. Do not settle for speaking to yourself with the same harshness that wounded you in the first place. King. Your father wants you to expect more from your life without becoming arrogant about it. King. You were not created only to survive. King. You were created to live. And if you want to stay connected to messages that encourage you to walk boldly into your next season, take a moment to subscribe to this channel. King. Let your subscription be a simple declaration that you're choosing to stay aligned with faith, hope, and the prophetic encouragement God is placing in your heart. King. The message uses the image of overflow, and the deeper idea is that you should stop thinking of scarcity as the permanent condition of your life. There can be enough room for joy, meaningful work, healthy relationships, rest, and purpose. King. You do not have to choose one good thing by sacrificing every other good thing. King. There is space for more. King. And while you are entering that new season, remember to be careful with your health. King. The source speaks about illness, fear, and diagnosis, but these should never replace real-world care. If something is physically or emotionally wrong, address it responsibly. Prayer can be part of your support, but it should not keep you from qualified help. King. Spiritually, the message is telling you not to let fear become the final word. King. Fear may speak loudly. King. It does not have to lead. King. There is another image your father wants you to hold on to, the letter. King. The letter represents news, information, a decision, or an opportunity carrying greater significance than it first appears to have. Read what comes carefully. Do not rush into conclusions. Do not assume every piece of news means the same thing. Use wisdom. King. Something ordinary can become important because of what you decide to do with it. King. And that is a recurring lesson here. King. Your future will not be built only by signs. King. It will be built by decisions. King. The message speaks about heaven opening doors, but you still have to walk through them. King. It speaks about divine timing, but you still have to take action when the right moment comes. King. It speaks about guidance, but you still have to listen honestly enough to recognize it. King. Your father wants you to trust yourself more deeply. King. Not every uneasy feeling means something terrible is happening. Sometimes uneasiness is simply your body and mind telling you to slow down and gather more information. King. Wisdom does not need to be dramatic. King. It can be quiet. King. It can sound like, wait. King. It can sound like, ask another question. It can sound like, "This is not for me." It can also sound like, "Go ahead." Learn the difference. The message says that someone may be preparing to enter your life who brings a sense of familiarity and peace. This person is not supposed to rescue you from yourself. They are not coming to complete some missing part of you. They are coming alongside someone who has already grown stronger. That difference matters. Healthy love does not erase your identity. It gives your identity room to breathe. You should not have to abandon your boundaries in order to keep someone close. You should not have to beg to be chosen. And when genuine kindness finally arrives, do not assume it must contain a hidden price because past experiences taught you to expect one. Give people the opportunity to prove themselves through consistent actions. The Source also describes your Father as watching from beyond and helping protect you from things you did not see. Whatever your personal understanding of that spiritual idea may be, the practical lesson is still useful. There were probably situations you survived without realizing how close you were to making a decision that could have harmed you. Sometimes protection looks like a closed door. Sometimes it looks like a friendship ending. Sometimes it looks like an opportunity disappearing. Sometimes the thing you called disappointment was actually redirection. You may not know immediately which losses were protecting you. You can still move forward. Your Father's message also asks you to pay attention to moments when your name comes up in places you have never been. The idea is that opportunities can develop quietly before you ever hear about them. Someone may recommend you. Someone may mention your work. Someone may notice your ability. A conversation may happen behind the scenes that creates an opening later. You do not have to know every room where your future is being discussed. Just become ready for the doors that eventually open. Prepare your work. Prepare your mind. Prepare your finances. Prepare your heart. Prepare your environment. The Source repeatedly returns to the instruction to clean your room and write your thoughts. That detail matters because preparation does not always feel spiritual. Sometimes preparation is simply putting your space in order. Throw away what you no longer need. Organize what has become chaotic. Write down what you are thinking instead of carrying every thought around in your head. Make the future easier to enter by removing some of the clutter from the present. Your Father also wants you to stop explaining your evolution to people who have already decided not to understand it. You do not have to give a speech every time you change. You do not have to defend every boundary. You do not need everyone's approval to become healthier. Let people misunderstand you if they insist on misunderstanding you. Your responsibility is to remain honest. Someone else's confusion does not have to become your emergency. And there are people you may need to release without anger. The Source describes this as allowing some people to walk in their own darkness while you continue toward the light. That does not mean you hate them. It means you stop trying to carry them. Your job is not to drag every person into your healing. Your job is to live in it. That distinction can change your life. You can pray for someone, without giving them unlimited access to you. King. You can forgive someone without trusting them again. King. You can wish someone well without inviting them back into your home. King. You can remember what they meant to you and still choose another direction. Now, make that choice personal. Type, "I choose peace," in the comments if you're ready to stop carrying what keeps disturbing your spirit. King. Let those words remind you that protecting your peace is part of protecting your future. King. Your Father wants you to understand that boundaries are not cruelty. King. Sometimes boundaries are love expressed through wisdom. King. He also wants you to rest. King. You have been treating exhaustion like a badge of honor. King. You have convinced yourself that if you stop, something will fall apart. King. But rest is not laziness. King. Rest gives your mind space to recover. King. Rest gives your emotions room to settle. King. Rest allows you to hear what constant pressure keeps drowning out. King. There is a quiet place where clarity begins. King. The message says your Father is present in stillness. King. Again, whether you understand that, spiritually, symbolically, or emotionally, there is something valuable in that picture. King. You do not have to keep the television on. King. You do not have to fill every silence. King. You do not have to remain constantly distracted. King. Sometimes you need 10 quiet minutes to remember what you actually think. King. That is where your own voice becomes easier to hear. King. And the source says your dreams may become more vivid. King. Write them down if they matter to you. King. Do not immediately turn every dream into a prediction. Notice the themes. Notice the emotions. Notice what your mind may be processing. King. Dreams can bring unresolved memories to the surface. King. They can also give you a language for feelings that are difficult to express while awake. King. Your Father's presence in those dreams may feel powerful because your bond with Him was powerful. King. Let that comfort you without forcing yourself to explain every detail. King. There are also signs described in the source, such as flickering lights, unexpected songs, a breeze when there is no obvious reason for it, or a sudden warmth that reminds you of Him. King. You do not need to chase those experiences. King. You do not need to spend every day looking for another sign. King. Let the moments come naturally. King. When they do, receive them gently. King. A memory can be meaningful even when you cannot prove where it came from. King. The message then turns toward your inner strength. King. It says you have no idea how much your presence can affect the people around you. Those who underestimated you may eventually see a very different version of you. King. But do not become obsessed with proving them wrong. King. Your victory does not need an audience. King. Your growth does not become more real because someone who doubted you finally notices. King. You can grow quietly. King. You can become successful without announcing every step. King. You can heal without telling everyone exactly how. King. There is power in becoming secure enough that you no longer need constant recognition. King. And your Father wants you to remember that your future does not belong to the people who rejected you. King. Your future belongs to the choices you make now. King. There is a line in the source about people treating your heart as though it were an option. King. Do not accept that anymore. King. You deserve relationships where you are valued consistently. King. You deserve people who can communicate. King. You deserve people who can tell the truth. You deserve people who respect your boundaries instead of punishing you for having them. King. And when you finally encounter that kind of relationship, do not mistake peace for boredom, simply because chaos once felt familiar. King. Your nervous system may need time to learn that calm can be safe. King. Be patient with yourself. King. The message also speaks about a person being sent to help you heal what has remained hidden. King. That help could take different forms: a trusted friend, a wise mentor, a healthy relationship, a therapist, a spiritual leader, or simply someone whose presence reminds you that you do not have to carry everything alone. King. Receiving help does not make you weak. King. It means you are willing to stop pretending that strength requires isolation. King. And there is another important instruction: let your laughter return. King. Your Father's message says to let your spirit become less controlled by fear. King. You can laugh loudly. King. You can enjoy ordinary things. King. You can plan something simply because it makes you happy. King. You do not need a crisis to justify joy. King. You do not need to wait until everything is perfect. King. You can experience happiness while some parts of your life are still unfinished. King. Healing does not require every problem to disappear first. King. That is another idea you have to release. King. You may also notice that you no longer desire certain things that once consumed your attention. King. Let that happen. King. Your preferences are allowed to change. King. Your values are allowed to mature. King. Your definition of success can change. King. What once looked impressive may eventually look exhausting. King. What once looked ordinary may suddenly feel precious. King. A quiet home. King. A healthy body. King. A trustworthy friend. King. An honest conversation. King. A peaceful morning. King. A life with room to breathe. King. Those things can become more valuable than proving something to anyone. King. The Source describes this season as a form of spiritual cleansing, where old regrets, comparisons, and outdated versions of yourself begin to fall away. King. You do not have to fight every old identity. King. Some identities simply expire. King. You were once the person who survived certain things. King. That does not mean you must remain the person created by those circumstances forever. King. You are allowed to become someone who no longer expects pain around every corner. King. Your Father says you are not behind. King. You are not late. King. Divine timing, as the message presents it, is connected to readiness rather than the clock. King. And perhaps you are ready now in a way you were not ready before. King. Not because you suddenly became perfect, but because you finally understand what you will and will not accept. King. You know more. King. You have stronger boundaries. King. You have survived more. King. You recognize manipulation faster. King. You understand your own patterns better. King. That knowledge matters. King. There may be a small moment ahead that becomes significant later. King. A casual conversation. King. An unexpected idea. King. A person you meet briefly. King. A message you almost ignore. King. A place you almost decide not to visit. King. Do not force meaning onto every ordinary event. King. But stay awake enough to recognize opportunity when it genuinely arrives. King. Your Father says He used to guide you through rules and warnings, but now you can learn to recognize guidance through intuition. King. The strongest intuition is not panic. It is often calm clarity. It may simply be the sense that one choice is consistent with who you are becoming and another is not. Trust that kind of clarity. And if you need to wait before deciding, wait. There is no prize for rushing into the wrong door. The Source then paints a powerful picture of a future encounter where your father's silhouette stands beyond a golden doorway. He does not come back. He does not need to. He simply looks at you with pride and communicates that you are ready. That image can become a symbol for the moment when you stop seeing yourself only as someone's grieving child and begin seeing yourself as the person responsible for what comes next. You carry his memory, but you also carry your own future. The two things can exist together. You can honor him by continuing. You can honor him by creating the kind of life that reflects what was best in what he taught you. You can honor him by refusing to repeat what harmed you. You can honor him by loving the people who come after you differently. You can honor him by becoming someone your younger self would feel safe with. And if one day you forget all of this, the Source gives you a simple practice. Close your eyes. Place your hand over your heart. Breathe. And listen to the message you most need to hear. You got this, kid. Keep going. I'm still right here. Let those words become a reminder rather than something you feel pressured to prove. You do not have to manufacture a supernatural experience. You simply need a quiet moment in which love reminds you that you can continue. You are blessed with memories. You are guided by what you have learned. You are covered by the people and values that have helped shape you. And you are capable of moving forward even when grief returns. There will be days when you feel strong. There will be days when you miss him intensely. Both can be true. Healing is not a straight line. Your father's message is asking you not to measure your progress by whether you ever cry again. Measure it by whether you can cry and still continue living. Measure it by whether you can remember him and still feel gratitude. Measure it by whether you can speak about him without believing that the story ended with his death. Something can end and still leave something behind. That is legacy. And your life is where that legacy continues. You are carrying his influence into your relationships, your decisions, your finances, your future, and the way you treat people who depend on you. That is why the message keeps insisting that your blessing cannot simply be taken by someone else. People can interfere with plans. They cannot control every choice you make. They cannot own your character. They cannot take your capacity to learn. They cannot erase what you have become. That part belongs to you. So protect it. The Source also speaks about your energy being cleansed from things that were never yours. Old comparisons, inherited fears, family expectations, and beliefs about yourself that developed because someone else told you who you were. Examine those beliefs. Did they come from truth? Or did they come from repeated criticism? Did you decide that you were inadequate? Or did someone teach you to see yourself that way? King. You do not have to keep every belief you inherited. King. Some things can end with you. King. That is how generational change begins. King. You decide that certain patterns will not be passed forward. King. You decide that cruelty will not be called discipline. King. You decide that silence will not be mistaken for peace. King. You decide that love will not require self-abandonment. King. You decide that children after you will inherit more freedom than you had. King. That is a powerful kind of spiritual inheritance. King. And your Father says he sees the weight you carry. King. He knows there are responsibilities on your shoulders that other people do not notice. King. He knows you have become the dependable one. King. The person people call. King. The person who handles things. King. The person who keeps going. King. But being dependable does not mean being endlessly available. King. Can say, I need a break. King. You can say, I cannot do that today. King. You can say, I need help. King. You can say, this relationship is no longer healthy for me. King. You can say, I am choosing differently now. King. Those sentences can feel uncomfortable the first few times. King. Speak them anyway when they are true. King. Your Father's message ends up returning to the same central invitation again and again. Stop waiting for another storm before allowing yourself to enjoy the calm. King. You have earned moments of peace. King. Accept them. King. And when something good arrives, do not immediately ask when it will disappear. King. Learn to stay present while it is good. King. That may be one of the deepest forms of healing available to you. King. You don't have to anticipate loss every time you experience happiness. King. You can let joy be joy. King. You can let love be love. King. You can let peace be peace. King. And you can let your Father's memory be a source of strength rather than a permanent place of pain. King. The past can bless the present without controlling it. King. Your Father's voice, as represented in this message, says he is proud of the person you are becoming. King. So become. King. Take the next step. King. Make the call. King. Set the boundary. King. Finish the project. King. Clean the room. King. Write the thought down. King. Apply for the opportunity. King. Say the prayer. King. Rest when you need to. King. And continue. King. Because the future will not be built in one dramatic moment. King. It will be built through ordinary choices made consistently. King. Your Father may no longer be physically beside you, but what he taught you can still influence every one of those choices. King. And that is how love continues to move through a family. King. That is how a father's impact becomes larger than one lifetime. King. That is how you take something painful and turn it into something that gives life. King. Your Father's message continues with something you have probably needed to hear for a long time. You do not have to keep carrying sorrow as though it is your responsibility to preserve it. King. There were moments when you thought healing meant forgetting him, so you held tightly to the pain, because the pain felt like the last thing connecting you to him. But love does not require you to remain wounded. King. You can let the wound close while keeping the love. King. You can move forward without moving away from him. King. The message describes his presence as something that changed form rather than disappeared. It speaks of a father who is no longer physically beside you, but whose influence continues through what you remember, what you learned, and what you now choose to become. That is why the source keeps returning to ordinary moments. A song, a breeze, a light flickering, a familiar phrase, a sudden memory, a feeling that arrives without warning. You may experience those things as reminders, and when they happen, you do not have to be afraid of them. You can simply pause and remember the love that still matters to you. Your father also wants you to understand how much he noticed. He saw the tears you thought nobody could see. He saw the moments when you were exhausted but still got up. He knew when you were pretending to be fine. He knew about the private battles that never became public stories. And he wants you to stop underestimating how strong you have been. There were times when you believed you were barely surviving, but you were also learning how to stand. You were developing endurance. You were discovering that you could make it through something you never imagined you would have to face. Now the same strength that helped you survive can be used to build. That is the change ahead. Survival was necessary for a season. It does not have to become your permanent identity. You are allowed to live differently. You may notice that your standards are changing. The people you once tolerated may no longer fit into your life. The conversations you used to entertain may now feel exhausting. Places that once felt familiar may suddenly feel uncomfortable. Do not panic when that happens. Growth often changes your sense of what belongs. Some people will move closer because they can respect the person you are becoming. Others will drift away because they benefited from an older version of you. Let that happen naturally. You do not have to chase anyone. You do not have to force anyone to understand. You do not have to keep proving that your transformation is real. The Source says there is no more time to entertain what destroys your peace. You have spent enough years watering dead soil. Now you are being asked to cultivate what can actually grow. That means your attention matters. Your time matters. Your energy matters. Your home matters. Your relationships matter. Even the way you speak to yourself matters. Stop using your own inner voice to continue the work of people who hurt you. If someone spent years telling you that you were not enough, you do not need to repeat their voice inside your own mind. Let that voice end. There is also a powerful theme of outgrowing people without becoming bitter toward them. You may reach a point where you realize that a person was important to you once, but no longer belongs in the same role. That is not always betrayal. Sometimes it is simply change. People grow in different directions. Some relationships end because one person stops accepting what the relationship requires. You are allowed to be that person. You are allowed to say, "This no longer works for me." You are allowed to walk away without an argument. You are allowed to stop explaining. Your Father wants you to understand that peace is not something you have to earn by keeping everyone happy. Peace becomes possible when you stop abandoning yourself to maintain connections. And there is another part of the message that concerns your finances. It describes money coming in, a financial opening, or an opportunity that may give you greater freedom. But the message also warns you not to spend it simply because you finally have it. Use wisdom. Use some of what comes to strengthen your foundation. Pay attention to practical needs. Invest in what helps you grow. Do not allow sudden improvement to create sudden recklessness. A blessing can be mishandled when emotion takes control. Your father would rather see you build something lasting than make one dramatic purchase that proves to everyone you finally have enough. There may also be a legal or administrative matter that has been moving quietly behind the scenes. The source speaks of a letter that carries a key. Whatever form that takes in your real life, the lesson is to read carefully, ask questions, keep records, and make informed decisions. Do not ignore important paperwork because the message sounds spiritual. Sometimes wisdom looks like checking the details. Sometimes protection looks like getting professional advice. Sometimes the most responsible thing you can do is wait until you understand what you are signing. Your father is not asking you to stop thinking. He is asking you to trust yourself enough to think clearly. There is another warning about people who may reveal their true motives when your life begins improving. Watch what happens when you succeed. Some people can celebrate your struggle because it makes them comfortable. Their behavior changes when you become confident, financially stable, emotionally healthy, or visibly successful. You may notice it. Do not let that change your character. You do not have to become suspicious of everyone. Simply observe. The right people will not need you to stay small so they can feel secure. The right people will be happy that you are becoming stronger. And the message says someone close to you may have treated your heart like an option. That is something you no longer need to tolerate. You can choose relationships where care is mutual. You can choose people who show up. You can choose people who communicate. You can choose people who make room for your feelings instead of making you ashamed of having them. And if someone continually requires you to prove your worth, stop trying to win the competition. You should never have to audition for basic respect. Your father also speaks about betrayal, lies, and silence that hurt more than words. You may still carry anger about something someone did to you. Perhaps you replay what happened and imagine what you should have said. Perhaps you wish someone had protected you. Perhaps you wonder why nobody stepped in. The message tells you that you do not have to keep reliving the event to prove that it mattered. You can acknowledge what happened and still release your grip on it. Forgiveness does not mean pretending nothing happened. It means refusing to let what happened control every future decision. You can remember the lesson without rebuilding the same prison around yourself. There is another reason the message emphasizes intuition. You may have become accustomed to doubting yourself. Someone questions your judgment, and you immediately assume you must be wrong. Someone ignores your boundary, and you wonder whether you were too sensitive. Someone treats you poorly, and you find 10 reasons to excuse them. That pattern has to change. Listen to yourself. Ing. Not every internal signal is a prophecy, but your repeated discomfort can still contain useful information. Ing. Ask what is actually happening. Ing. Look at the evidence. Ing. Notice patterns. Ing. Then decide. Ing. You are capable of making decisions without having every answer first. Ing. The source describes a period where opportunities may appear quickly and the path may seem to rearrange itself. Ing. That can be exciting, but it can also feel destabilizing. Ing. You may have been comfortable with certainty because uncertainty felt dangerous. Ing. Now you may need to learn how to move with some unknowns. Ing. You do not need the entire map. Ing. You only need the next responsible step. Ing. Take that step. Ing. Then reassess. Ing. Then take another. Ing. This is how a large change often happens. Ing. Not all at once. Ing. One decision at a time. Ing. And there is a deeper emotional shift happening as well. Ing. Your relationship with your own identity is changing. Ing. You are beginning to see that you are not the person who was defined by the worst thing that happened to you. Ing. You are not only the person who lost someone. Ing. You are not only the person who was betrayed. Ing. You are not only the one who had financial problems. Ing. You are not only the one who was misunderstood. Ing. Those experiences are part of your story. Ing. They are not your entire identity. Ing. Your father wants you to see yourself as someone with a future. Ing. Someone with choices. Ing. Someone with influence. Ing. Someone who can build. Ing. Someone who can love without living in fear. Ing. Someone who can create a different pattern for the family. Ing. That last part matters. Ing. The source repeatedly describes you as a legacy holder. Ing. The person who can end a cycle. Ing. The person who can take inherited pain and refuse to pass it forward. Ing. That may affect how you raise children, how you communicate, how you handle conflict, how you respond to stress, and what you consider normal in relationships. Ing. Generational change is often much quieter than people imagine. Ing. Sometimes it is simply a parent deciding not to speak to a child the way they were spoken to. Ing. Sometimes it is deciding to apologize. Ing. Sometimes it is learning to listen. Ing. Sometimes it is leaving an unhealthy relationship instead of repeating what everyone around you called normal. Ing. Sometimes it is getting help rather than pretending everything is fine. Ing. Your father's message says, the generational pain can end with you. Ing. That does not mean you have to fix every person who came before you. Ing. It means you can choose what happens next. Ing. You can choose what your descendants receive. Ing. You can choose what values become part of the family story. Ing. That is a form of inheritance far greater than money. Ing. And if you have children, or one day guide younger people, they may live with more freedom because you were willing to heal. Ing. That is worth remembering when healing feels slow. Ing. You may not see the full result of your choices immediately. Ing. But someone after you may. Ing. The source also speaks about a hidden blessing coded into your bloodline. Ing. Rather than treating that as a literal promise about a specific supernatural event, understand the underlying idea. You may possess strengths that were formed through generations of experience. Ing. Resilience. Ing. Resourcefulness. Ing. Compassion. Ing. Determination. Ing. the ability to keep going, the ability to care, the ability to rebuild. Those things can be passed forward, and you get to decide how they are used. Your father's message then moves toward a final release of unspoken words. There were things you wanted to tell him. There were questions you never got answers to. There may still be anger mixed with love. That is normal. You don't have to turn your relationship with your father into a perfect story just because he is gone. You can acknowledge the complicated parts. You can remember what hurt. You can remember what you wish had been different. You can still love him. Both truths can exist together. He was your father. He was also human. And your healing does not require you to erase either side. If you carry gratitude, express it. If you carry sorrow, express it. If you carry anger, bring it into prayer, reflection, conversation, or another safe place where you can process it. Do not keep every emotion locked inside simply because you think grief should look a certain way. Your father wants you to live honestly. That means being honest about what you feel. There is a line in the Source that says, you do not have to be strong all the time. Let that stay with you. Strength is not never breaking down. Strength is knowing what to do after you break down. Sometimes strength is sleeping. Sometimes strength is asking for help. Sometimes strength is crying. Sometimes strength is saying no. Sometimes strength is beginning again. And sometimes strength is simply getting through one ordinary day. You do not need to perform strength for anyone. You need to live truthfully. The Source also says there is a spiritual contract with peace. You do not have to beg for it. You do not have to prove that you deserve it. You can make choices that support it. You can protect your environment. You can limit access to people who repeatedly disturb it. You can stop returning to situations that have already shown you what they are. Peace is not passive. Sometimes peace requires a difficult decision. Sometimes peace requires leaving. Sometimes it requires speaking. Sometimes it requires silence. Learn what peace demands from you, and then honor it. There is also a reminder that you can still experience joy. You do not have to wait until every wound has closed. You can laugh while grieving. You can celebrate something small even while missing your father. You can feel happiness without believing that you have abandoned your past. Grief and joy can exist in the same life. That is part of being human. Your father wants you to stop treating happiness like something you have to apologize for. You are allowed to be happy. You are allowed to feel proud. You are allowed to enjoy the life that continues. And when people speak badly about you, let them. You do not have to chase every rumor. You do not have to correct every misunderstanding. Your character will eventually speak more clearly than your explanations. Your focus should be your life, your peace, your responsibilities, your growth. The Source uses the image of a crown over your life that no one can remove. Think of that crown as dignity, as self-respect, as the decision to stop treating yourself like someone who deserves less. No one can hand you permission to value yourself. You have to decide. You have to practice it. You have to protect it. When the days become difficult again, the Source gives you a simple phrase. Dad, walk with me. Whether you understand that as a prayer, a memory, or a private emotional ritual, you can use it as a reminder to slow down and reconnect with what matters. Let that phrase help you remember the best of His guidance. Let it remind you that you are capable. Let it remind you that you have already endured hard seasons. Let it remind you that you do not have to face every challenge in panic. And there is another key idea here. Do not confuse spiritual language with a reason to stop taking practical action. The Source speaks of divine protection, spiritual contracts, signs, and heavenly guidance, but your real life still requires discernment. Lock the door. Read the contract. See the doctor. Check the bank account. Research the opportunity. Ask the difficult question. Set the boundary. Pray. Then act wisely. Faith and responsibility do not have to be enemies. They can work together. Your Father's message is ultimately pointing you toward a life where you trust both your faith and your ability to think. You are becoming less reactive. You are learning to pause. You are learning to choose. That is maturity. And the Source describes this as a movement away from survival and toward abundance. Abundance does not always mean dramatic wealth. It can mean having enough peace that you can sleep. Enough confidence that you can say no. Enough stability to make choices instead of reacting to emergencies. Enough love that you no longer chase people who do not value you. Enough faith to begin again. Enough wisdom to recognize what is good when it arrives. Those are forms of abundance too. Your Father wants you to become someone who can receive without fear. That may be difficult after years of disappointment. When good things finally happen, you may wonder how long they will last. Try not to live in tomorrow's loss. Stay in today's blessing. Let yourself receive the good moment while it is here. The Source also speaks about someone arriving who will help you heal. Again, do not expect one person to solve everything. Healthy relationships support healing. They do not replace your responsibility to heal yourself. The right person will encourage you to become stronger, not more dependent. They will respect your independence. They will communicate. They will make space for your history without making your history the center of the relationship. And they will not require you to betray yourself to prove that you love them. That is the kind of connection worth recognizing. There is also a warning about people who appear generous while secretly expecting control. Pay attention to gifts that come with invisible strings. Pay attention to favors that become debts. Pay attention to people who constantly remind you what they have done for you. Gratitude does not require lifelong submission. You can appreciate someone and still maintain your freedom. King. That is another boundary the message is inviting you to learn. King. Your Father wants you to stop allowing guilt to become a tool other people use against you. King. You do not owe everyone access because they once helped you. King. You do not owe everyone forgiveness on their timeline. King. You do not owe everyone the old version of yourself. King. Your life is allowed to evolve. King. And there may be a moment when someone says something about you in a room you have never entered. King. The Source uses this as an image of hidden movement. King. You may not see every opportunity forming. King. You may not know who is recommending you. King. You may not know what conversations are happening behind the scenes. King. That is okay. King. You do not need to monitor everything. King. You need to be prepared. King. Become the kind of person who is ready when the opportunity arrives. King. Improve the skill. King. Finish the work. King. Take care of the paperwork. King. Strengthen your body. King. Protect your mental space. King. Build your savings. King. Keep your promises. King. Your preparation will matter when timing changes. King. That is where your spiritual message meets your practical life. King. You pray for a door, and then you prepare yourself to walk through it. King. You ask for change, and then you become capable of carrying it. King. You ask for peace, and then you stop feeding the things that constantly destroy it. King. That is growth. King. And if the next season brings unexpected change, remember that not every difficult transition is a disaster. King. Some transitions are necessary. King. A move. King. A new job. King. A different relationship. King. A new routine. King. A different city. King. A new responsibility. King. The Source describes relocation not just physically but spiritually. King. Perhaps the deeper point is that your environment and your identity may need to change together. King. You cannot always grow into a new life while insisting on keeping every old structure unchanged. King. Sometimes you have to let the furniture move before the room feels different. King. Sometimes you have to leave the room entirely. King. Do what is wise. King. Do not make a dramatic move simply because a message told you something is coming. King. But when life presents a clear opportunity that genuinely aligns with your goals and values, do not reject it simply because you are afraid. King. Fear should not automatically become your answer. King. Your Father wants courage from you. King. Not recklessness. King. Courage. King. There is a difference. King. Courage thinks. King. Courage prepares. King. Courage acts. King. Courage accepts that uncertainty exists and moves responsibly anyway. King. That is what the next part of your journey may require. King. And there is one more thing your Father wants to say about your past. King. Stop trying to become the person you were before you were hurt. King. You cannot go backward. King. You can only become someone wiser. King. The version of you who existed before betrayal, disappointment, grief, and hardship did not have the knowledge you have now. King. Do not romanticize that person. King. Respect them. King. They survived with what they knew. King. Then allow yourself to grow beyond them. King. You have learned. King. You have changed. King. You have become more discerning. You have become more aware of what matters. That is not failure. That is life. And the message says, your Father sees the person you are becoming with pride. So let that pride motivate you rather than pressure you. You do not need to become extraordinary overnight. You do not need to transform your entire life this week. You only need to continue. Continue making better choices. Continue healing. Continue learning. Continue becoming more honest. Continue choosing peace. Continue loving well. Continue building. That is enough. And when you feel yourself slipping back into old habits, do not shame yourself. Notice it. Correct it. Return to what you know. Your healing does not have to be perfect to be real. Your progress does not have to be dramatic to count. A quiet change is still a change. A healthier reaction is still a victory. A boundary you finally keep is still a breakthrough. A night when you sleep peacefully is still progress. A morning when you wake up without immediately fearing the day is still progress. Let those small victories matter. Your Father wants you to recognize them. They are evidence that your life is moving. And as you continue, remember the deepest part of this message. His love does not need you to stop living. It invites you to live more fully. Your laughter honors what was beautiful. Your healing honors what he hoped for you. Your courage honors the sacrifices that came before you. Your kindness carries something forward. Your wisdom protects what comes next. That is how a legacy becomes alive instead of remaining only a memory. Some of the most meaningful things you do will never receive applause. Hebrews 6:10 reminds us that God does not overlook the love and service we show to others. He sees the kindness nobody posted about, the help nobody thanked you for, and the generosity given without recognition. So when you support this channel, let it be an expression of that same heart to serve and encourage. If you would like to help this message continue reaching people, you can use the support link in the description or pinned comment. Give only as you feel genuinely led, knowing that God sees the heart behind every act of love. So when you think about your Father tonight, do not think only about the final day. Think about the entire story. Think about who he was. Think about what he taught you. Think about what you admired. Think about what you want to do differently. Take the best parts with you. Leave the rest where it belongs. And then keep walking. Because your life is still moving. Your future is still being written. And you are still here. That matters more than you may realize. There is a point in this journey where you stop asking for closure and begin accepting that some relationships are carried differently after loss. Your Father's message reaches that place now. You have already spent enough time searching the past for the conversation that would have made everything easier. You have replayed what happened, what should have happened, and what you wish you had known. But there comes a moment when you have to let the unfinished parts remain unfinished and still choose to live. That choice does not dishonor your Father. It honors the life you still have. The message says, your connection has changed, not disappeared. The relationship you once experienced through conversation, touch, presence, and ordinary routines now survives through memory, values, influence, and the way his love shaped the person you are becoming. That may be why certain moments affect you so strongly. A song can bring everything back. A familiar road can make your chest tighten. A phrase someone says can sound exactly like something he once told you. A quiet evening can suddenly make you feel as though he is close. And when those moments come, you do not have to force an explanation. You can simply receive the memory. There is tenderness in being reminded that someone mattered. Your father wants you to understand that the strongest connection you have with him now is not the pain of losing him. It is what you choose to carry forward. That is where the message becomes an activation. You are being asked to take the love, wisdom, courage, and lessons that came through your relationship and put them into action. Do not let those things remain only memories. Use them. Use them when you make decisions. Use them when you choose who gets access to you. Use them when you face temptation. Use them when you are afraid. Use them when you have to begin again. Your father is represented here as handing you a torch. A spiritual torch. Something that belongs to you alone. It is not a burden meant to make your life heavier. It is a light meant to help you walk when the road ahead is unclear. You do not need a complete map. You need enough light for the next step. That is a different way of living. For years, you may have believed you needed certainty before moving. Now you are learning that sometimes clarity comes after the first responsible step, not before it. You take the step. You learn. You adjust. You continue. And little by little, the road becomes visible. Your father's message says, in effect, you do not need someone else to tell you who you are anymore. That matters. Because there was a younger version of you who needed approval. You wanted to hear that you were doing well. You wanted reassurance that you were enough. You wanted someone to say that the mistakes did not cancel your worth. And now the message turns that reassurance inward. You can begin giving yourself what you spent years waiting for from other people. You can tell yourself, I did well. You can recognize your own progress. You can stop dismissing your accomplishments simply because they do not look impressive to everyone else. Your life does not need to be impressive to strangers to be meaningful. It needs to be honest. It needs to be yours. The source describes a transformation in the way you respond to people around you. Your energy changes. Your tolerance changes. Your sense of what belongs in your life becomes clearer. You may begin noticing that certain environments make you feel smaller, while others allow you to breathe. Pay attention to that difference. A healthy environment does not require you to constantly defend your right to exist. It does not require you to perform. It does not demand that you abandon your boundaries. There may also be people who begin pulling away. Do not immediately interpret every separation as failure. Some distance is protection. Some distance gives both people room to grow. Some distance prevents you from returning to an identity that no longer fits. Your father wants you to understand that release can be loving. You do not need to hold every relationship in place simply because it once mattered. People can be meaningful and still be temporary. You can be grateful for a chapter without reopening it. And when someone leaves, you do not have to spend the rest of your life trying to prove that they made the wrong choice. Keep your attention on where you are going. That is where your strength is needed. The message also says that a situation in your life is about to shift in a way you cannot fully see yet. The change may begin quietly. A conversation. An idea. An opportunity. A decision. A new routine. A meeting. Something that seems small could become the beginning of a much larger change. You do not have to make every moment dramatic. Some turning points are almost invisible while they are happening. Later, you look back and realize that one ordinary choice changed everything. So be present. Be alert. And be willing to act when something genuinely aligns with your values and responsibilities. There is no need to force outcomes. The source describes the next season as one in which things begin to move more quickly. What was stagnant may start progressing. What was uncertain may become clearer. What was delayed may finally have room to develop. But do not become obsessed with a timetable. The message mentions specific periods of time, including 72 hours and 11 days. Those details belong to its spiritual framing, not to a guarantee that a particular event must happen on a fixed schedule. Do not build fear or disappointment around a countdown. Instead, use the message as an invitation to become attentive to your own life. Notice what is changing. Notice what feels healthier. Notice where your choices are producing better results. That is where the real evidence of growth will be. The message says your energy is being cleared of old residue. That can be understood as letting go of the emotional leftovers of previous seasons. Old comparisons. Old regrets. Old versions of yourself. Old arguments you keep having in your head. Old fantasies about how things should have turned out. Old fears about what might happen again. You do not need to keep carrying these simply because they once protected you. A defense that kept you safe in one season can become a prison in another. You may have learned to expect rejection. You may have learned to assume people will leave. You may have learned to distrust good news. You may have learned to stay emotionally guarded because it felt safer than being disappointed. Now the message asks you to examine those habits. Not everything good is a trap. Not every kind person has an agenda. Not every peaceful moment is the calm before another disaster. Sometimes peace is simply peace. Let your mind learn that possibility. There is also an image of a new chapter opening and the old chapter remaining behind. You are being told not to bring every burden with you. That does not mean forgetting what happened. It means refusing to let the past dictate every future choice. You can remember what betrayal taught you without assuming everyone will betray you. You can remember disappointment without expecting every opportunity to fail. You can remember loss without living as though another loss is always about to arrive. That is freedom. Your Father wants you to stop waiting for the next storm. You have spent too long preparing for pain that may never come. And while caution has its place, constant anticipation of disaster can prevent you from experiencing what is actually happening right now. So when something good arrives, stay with it. Do not immediately ask how long it will last. Let the good moment exist. The Source also describes a spiritual identity shift. You are no longer being portrayed as someone simply searching for answers. You are becoming the signal. That means your life begins communicating something through the choices you make. People will notice the difference. They may not understand it. Some will be drawn closer. Some will feel uncomfortable. Some may challenge it. You do not have to persuade them. You simply have to remain consistent. When you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, you gain time and energy. Use that energy to build. Use it to create. Use it to love. Use it to learn. Use it to rest. There is a deeper reason your Father's message keeps returning to the idea of becoming. You are not finished. The person standing in your life today is not the final version of you. You can still grow. You can still change direction. You can still become more compassionate without becoming easier to manipulate. You can become more confident without becoming arrogant. You can become more spiritual without becoming disconnected from practical reality. You can become more independent without refusing healthy support. You can become more peaceful without becoming passive. That is the kind of transformation this message is inviting. And then there is another important distinction. Your Father is not being presented as someone who wants you to stay dependent on His presence. The deeper message is that He wants you to become capable. He wants you to trust the strength He helped nurture. He wants you to stand. He wants you to make decisions. He wants you to continue your life rather than waiting for a sign before every move. That is why the torch matters. Eventually, you have to carry it yourself. You can receive guidance and still take responsibility. You can pray and still act. You can remember your Father and still become your own person. That is maturity. There is also a message about your spiritual sensitivity. You may notice that you feel certain environments more strongly than before. A room can feel heavy. A conversation can leave you exhausted. Another person's sadness may seem to settle on you. You may find yourself needing quiet after social situations. The message describes this as being spiritually gifted. Again, you do not need to turn every feeling into a supernatural conclusion. Start with something practical. Notice your emotional patterns. Protect your boundaries. Rest. Spend time in environments where you feel safe. Learn which situations truly drain you and which ones simply challenge you to grow. Sensitivity becomes useful when it is paired with discernment. You do not have to absorb everything you notice. You can observe without carrying. And as your awareness grows, you may become more selective about the people around you. That is not necessarily isolation. It can be wisdom. There is another warning here about anyone who dishonors you. The message uses strong language, saying that anyone who dishonors you will have to deal with your father's protection. Take the deeper lesson without turning it into revenge. You do not need to punish people. You do not need to threaten anyone. You do not need to become aggressive. Protect your space through boundaries. Walk away when necessary. Ask for help when a situation is genuinely dangerous. Choose safety over pride. Real protection does not require you to create another wound. And your peace matters. Your father's message describes your space as sacred. Treat it that way. Not only your physical home, your mental space, your emotional space, your private time, your attention, the information you consume, the people you allow close to you. You have a right to protect those things. You do not have to answer every message immediately. You do not have to explain every absence. You do not have to participate in every argument. You can choose quiet. You can choose distance. You can choose rest. You can choose to walk away from conversations that only produce more confusion. There is freedom in realizing that not every situation deserves your reaction. And that leads into another important message about your future. The source says that one day you may walk into a room and feel a peace you have not known for years. That could be taken literally, but it can also describe something more internal. Imagine reaching the point where you no longer need approval from everyone in the room. You are comfortable with your own decisions. You know your values. You know your limits. You are not competing. You are not trying to prove anything. That kind of peace changes the atmosphere because it changes you first. And when you become that grounded, other people may respond differently. Some will respect you more. Some will realize they can no longer manipulate you. Some will simply move on. Let them. Your growth does not need to keep everyone nearby. The message also describes platforms and opportunities being prepared for you before you can see them. That is a useful reminder that not everything important is visible immediately. Sometimes preparation happens quietly. You work on something for months before anyone notices. You improve a skill. You build credibility. You make connections. You learn from mistakes. Then one opportunity appears and seems sudden. It was not sudden. You were preparing before you could see the result. So keep preparing. Do the work that nobody applauds. Keep your promises when nobody is watching. King. Learn when nobody is asking you to. King. Save when nobody expects you to. King. Pray when nobody knows you are praying. King. Build quietly. King. There is tremendous strength in that. King. And then the Source gives you another instruction. Follow the idea that carries clarity rather than the idea that requires desperation. King. Not every exciting thought is a divine assignment. King. Some are simply impulses. King. Pause. King. Write the idea down. King. Ask what it would require. King. Consider the consequences. King. Talk to someone wise if the decision affects your finances, health, legal matters, or family. King. Then decide. King. Your Father's message does not require you to abandon common sense. King. It asks you to bring wisdom and faith together. King. And when an idea truly matters, it may keep returning. King. You may notice that the more you learn, the more practical the idea becomes. King. That is worth exploring. King. You are not required to act instantly. King. You are required to stay awake. King. The Source also speaks of a great unveiling, where people begin revealing who they really are. King. This is one of the reasons you should stop arguing with people's behavior. King. Believe patterns. King. If someone repeatedly shows you that they cannot respect your boundary, accept the evidence. King. If someone consistently supports you, accept that evidence too. King. You do not need to convince yourself that every person is secretly good or secretly bad. King. Look at what they actually do. King. Your Father wants you to become less dependent on appearances. King. Not every smile means love. King. Not every criticism means hatred. King. Not every rejection means failure. King. Not every opportunity means blessing. King. Discernment is the ability to look beneath the surface without becoming cynical. King. That balance will serve you. King. There is also an emotional detox described in the message. King. You may feel tired. King. You may cry unexpectedly. King. You may experience moments of heaviness in your chest or a lump in your throat when an old memory rises. King. Take those experiences seriously without assuming every physical sensation has a spiritual cause. King. Your body has its own language. King. Rest when you need to. King. Talk to someone you trust. King. Seek professional support when necessary. King. And allow emotions to move instead of forcing them back down. King. You have suppressed enough. King. You do not need to become ill simply because you were taught to stay strong. King. Sometimes healing means finally admitting that something hurt. King. Sometimes it means saying, I am tired. King. Sometimes it means saying, I miss him. King. Those statements are not weakness. King. They are honesty. King. And honesty creates room for healing. King. The Source says that the generational pain can end with you. King. That means you have an opportunity to build a different future. King. You can teach the people around you that love does not require fear. King. You can show them that disagreement does not require humiliation. King. You can demonstrate that apologies are not weakness. King. You can model that asking for help is healthy. King. You can create a home, a family, or a community where people are allowed to tell the truth. King. That may be one of the most meaningful things you inherit from your Father and pass forward. And if this word is speaking directly to your heart, share it with someone who may need this encouragement today. King. Your share can become a simple act of love, helping this message reach another person who is believing for strength, healing, and breakthrough. Not a possession. A pattern. A healthier pattern. And as you grow, some people may accuse you of changing. You have changed. That is the point. You are supposed to change. The person who carried yesterday's pain does not have to remain in charge of tomorrow. Your father says you should not apologize for outgrowing people. Take that seriously. Growth sometimes creates distance. You do not have to reduce yourself to preserve compatibility with people who refuse to grow with you. You can be kind and still move forward. You can forgive and still move forward. You can love people and still move forward. That is not betrayal. That is life. And then the message brings you toward one of its strongest emotional images. A golden doorway. A quiet opening. On the other side, the figure of your father. He does not need to return. He does not need to speak endlessly. He simply looks at you with pride. The message says he tells you, "You're ready. I trust you now." Let those words settle. Because there is something powerful about being trusted by someone you loved. Eventually, you have to trust yourself in the same way. You have to believe you can make the next decision. You have to believe you can recover if the decision is imperfect. You have to believe that mistakes will not destroy everything. You have to believe you can learn. That is the real inheritance. Trust. Not blind certainty. Trust that you can handle life as it unfolds. And perhaps the greatest shift of all is this. You are no longer the person standing at the doorway asking whether you are allowed to enter. You are opening the door. You are stepping forward. You are taking responsibility for what happens next. And if fear tells you that you are not ready, remember how many things you have already survived. You were not prepared for every one of them either. You learned along the way. You can learn again. You may still cry. You may still have difficult nights. You may still miss your father deeply. None of that means you are going backward. You are simply human. Let the love remain. Let the grief breathe. Let the future unfold. And when you find yourself looking upward because you wish you could hear his voice, remember what this entire message has been trying to teach you. The relationship is no longer about waiting for him to tell you what to do. It is about carrying what mattered into the life you are living now. You can ask yourself, what would love choose here? What would courage choose? What would wisdom choose? What would protect my peace? What kind of person do I want to be remembered as? Those questions can become a living continuation of his influence. And this is where your father's message becomes bigger than one moment of grief. It becomes a challenge. Become someone who can carry love without becoming trapped in the past. Become someone who can experience success without becoming cruel. Become someone who can set boundaries without losing compassion. King. Become someone who can forgive without returning to what harmed you. King. Become someone who can receive without fear. King. Become someone who can stand alone without refusing community. King. Become someone who knows when to speak and when to remain quiet. King. Become someone who keeps going. King. That is the person the message says is waiting inside you. King. And perhaps you have been waiting for someone else to tell you that you are ready. King. So hear it now. King. You are ready to begin. King. You are ready to release what has already finished. King. You are ready to stop carrying what was never yours. King. You are ready to make decisions from clarity rather than fear. King. You are ready to believe that a peaceful future is possible. If you receive that declaration for your life, type Amen below. Let your comment be a simple expression of faith that you are ready to walk forward, leave the old weight behind, and make room for the new season. King. You are ready to let your Father's love become part of your strength rather than the reason you remain broken. King. You are ready. King. And when you forget, return to the simplest truth. King. You are still here. King. Your story is still moving. King. There are still people you have not met. King. Places you have not seen. King. Conversations you have not had. King. Ideas you have not acted on. King. Joy you have not experienced. King. There are chapters that grief has not written yet. King. Let yourself reach them. King. The source says you may one day look back and realize that you no longer recognize your life. Not because everything around you became perfect, but because you finally felt whole inside it. King. That is the transformation worth seeking. King. Not a life without difficulty. King. A life where difficulty no longer defines your identity. King. A life where you can laugh again. King. Dance again. King. Trust again wisely. King. Love again without losing yourself. King. Wake up without immediately expecting something terrible. King. That is a future worth building. King. And when that future arrives, you may remember this moment. King. Not because every prediction came true. King. Not because every sign appeared. King. But because something inside you finally changed. King. You stopped waiting to be rescued. King. You started participating in your own healing. King. You stopped asking whether you were allowed to become more. King. You decided that you were. King. You stopped treating joy as something forbidden. King. You let yourself receive it. King. That is the real turning point. King. So carry your Father's love like armor, but let that armor have softness. King. Let it protect your heart without hardening it. King. Let it make you brave without making you bitter. King. Let it remind you to stand when you want to collapse. King. Let it remind you to rest when you are exhausted. King. Let it remind you to keep your promises to yourself. King. Let it remind you that the best way to honor a meaningful life is to live your own with intention. King. And as you move forward, you may hear that familiar inner voice that says, "Keep going." King. You may remember words he used when you were younger. King. You may find yourself repeating his advice. King. You may catch yourself laughing in exactly the way he used to laugh. King. Those moments are part of your inheritance too. King. Some things remain because they were woven deeply into you. King. You do not have to force them to stay. King. They already belong. King. And when the time comes for you to guide someone else, You will understand what it means to become the voice that someone needs. King. You will know what it is like to be afraid and keep walking. King. You will know what it means to lose someone and still choose life. King. You will know how powerful a kind word can be when someone feels completely alone. King. Your suffering can become wisdom if you allow it to. King. That may be one of the most meaningful ways to transform grief. King. Not by pretending it never happened. King. By letting it teach you how to love better. King. There is still more ahead. King. More peace. King. More clarity. King. More purpose. King. More life. King. And you do not have to rush toward it. King. You can take one step at a time. King. Breathe. King. Choose. King. Act. King. Rest. King. Continue. King. That is enough. King. When you finally reach a place where you can think about your father without only feeling the pain of losing him, you will know that something has shifted. King. You will still miss him. King. But the memory will carry warmth too. King. That is not forgetting. King. That is healing. King. And healing is not a betrayal. King. It is one of the ways love survives. King. So let the tears come when they need to. King. Let the smiles come when they can. King. Let the memories visit. King. Let them leave. King. Keep living. King. Keep becoming. King. Keep building the kind of life that makes the people you love glad you are here. King. Your father's message is not asking you to remain beside the grave of what happened. King. It is asking you to walk into what comes next. King. With courage. King. With wisdom. King. With love. King. With boundaries. King. With hope. King. And with the quiet confidence that you can meet the future one day at a time. King. You are not finished. King. You are not too late. King. You are not disqualified by your past. King. You are not defined by the people who failed to recognize your worth. King. You are becoming more fully yourself. King. And that is enough reason to keep going. Before we continue, subscribe to this channel and stay connected to these moments of prayer, faith, and prophetic encouragement. King. Let that simple step mark your willingness to keep growing in alignment with the promises and purpose God has placed over your life. King. So when you close your eyes tonight, do not ask only where your Father is. King. Ask what part of His love is already living through you. King. Then look at the answer honestly. King. Maybe it is your strength. King. Maybe it is your humor. King. Maybe it is the way you care for others. King. Maybe it is your determination. King. Maybe it is the way you refuse to give up. King. Whatever it is, carry it forward. King. That is how the legacy continues. King. And that is how love becomes larger than loss. King. There is still another layer to what your Father wants you to understand, and this one reaches beyond comfort. It is about preparation. King. The message says He did not come only to ease your grief. He came, in the language of the source, to prepare you for what lies ahead. King. That changes the way you should hear everything that came before. King. You are not being invited to remain in the past, staring backward at what was lost. You are being encouraged to take the strength that came from that relationship and carry it into the future. King. Your Father wants you to recognize that the fear you have been carrying no longer has to control your decisions. You have allowed fear to become a kind of internal warning system. Before something good can fully arrive, you start preparing for it to disappear. Before you trust someone, you imagine how they could hurt you. Before you become excited, part of you whispers that disappointment is coming. You learned that pattern because pain taught you to stay ready. But readiness and fear are not the same thing. Being prepared means you can respond wisely. Being afraid means you are already suffering from something that has not happened. Your father wants you to know the difference. There are situations ahead that will require you to think clearly even when emotions are strong. Your spirit needs strength, but your judgment needs to remain active too. When something unexpected happens, breathe first. Do not make your first decision while you are overwhelmed. Let the moment settle. Then ask what is actually true. The message describes your father's love as a spiritual torch placed into your hands. That image is important, because a torch is not meant to stay in one place. It is carried. You are carrying forward something that began before you. The wisdom, the courage, the resilience, the lessons, the love, the parts of your father that helped shape you. Some of those qualities may have been obvious. Others may only become clear now that you are older. Perhaps there are things he used to say that suddenly make sense. Perhaps you now understand why he worried about certain things. Perhaps there are habits you once found annoying that you now recognize as expressions of care. Loss can change the meaning of old memories. Something that once seemed ordinary can become precious. And your father wants you to look at those memories differently. Not every memory has to be turned into a lesson. Some memories can simply be loved. You can remember the sound of his voice. You can remember how he walked into a room. You can remember a joke he told too many times. You can remember an argument. You can remember a meal. You can remember a boring afternoon that meant nothing at the time and everything now. Those ordinary pieces of life are often the things we miss most. The source also says that when you laugh, your Father's joy is reflected in heaven, and when you finally rest, you are no longer carrying the same struggle. You do not have to take that literally to understand the emotional truth underneath it. People we love often continue to live through our happiness. When you are doing well, you carry something they gave you into the world. When you treat someone kindly because your father once taught you to care, his influence is still present. When you choose courage because he once encouraged you, something of him continues. When you refuse to repeat the pain you experienced, his legacy becomes part of your future instead of remaining only in your past. That is why healing matters. It affects more than you. There is also a warning about becoming too dependent on signs. The source repeatedly points toward repeating numbers, sudden songs, flickering lights, breezes, dreams, and unusual sensations. Those experiences may feel meaningful. Let them be meaningful without allowing them to run your life. You do not need to spend every hour searching for proof that your father is near. You do not have to test the universe. You do not have to decode every number. Your relationship with him is not measured by how many signs you collect. Your love does not become stronger because a light flickers. You loved him before the sign. You love him after it. That is what matters. And the Source says, there will be a day when you stop searching for signs, because something within you becomes settled. You will not need constant confirmation. You will know what you carry. That internal peace is more valuable than endless searching. Your Father also asks you to stop believing that you are behind. You may compare your life to other people. You see someone getting married earlier, someone buying a home sooner, someone advancing faster, someone receiving opportunities that you thought would have come to you by now. Then you wonder what is wrong with you. The message says you are not late. Your life is not required to match someone else's calendar. That does not mean you should become passive. It means you should stop turning comparison into evidence that you have failed. You may be building a foundation that other people cannot see. You may be learning lessons they never had to learn. You may be recovering from things nobody knows about. You may have responsibilities that changed the pace of your life. Your timeline is still yours. Keep moving. There is a moment coming, according to the Source, that may appear very small at first. A casual conversation, an unexpected idea, a gentle encounter, something you could easily overlook. But that ordinary moment may eventually become a turning point. Again, you do not need to obsess over every interaction. Stay open. Stay observant. And when something feels genuinely aligned, do not immediately reject it just because it is unfamiliar. Your Father also wants you to understand that intuition can become stronger when you stop drowning it in noise. You do not hear yourself clearly when your life is filled with constant distraction. Spend some time without a screen. Sit somewhere quiet. Take a walk. Write. Pray. Think. Sometimes the answer you were waiting for was already present underneath all the noise. The Source describes your Father as saying that when you sit in silence, he sits with you. Think of that as permission to create stillness again. You do not have to fill every empty moment. You do not have to be productive every minute. You do not have to prove your worth by staying busy. Rest is part of preparation. Silence is part of discernment. And peace can become a place where you learn to hear yourself. There is another transformation happening in how you understand yourself. The Source says you are moving from being the seeker to becoming the signal. That means you are no longer waiting for someone else to tell you what your worth is. You are beginning to live from an internal understanding of it. That will change who you attract. When you stop accepting disrespect, certain people stop approaching you. When you become more confident, people who relied on your insecurity may become uncomfortable. When your standards change, Some old relationships no longer have a place to stand. That is not always a problem. Sometimes it is evidence of growth. You do not need to keep every connection just because it survived the past. Some people fit the person you were. Some fit the person you are becoming. Those are not always the same people. And there is a deeper lesson here about peace. Your peace is not something you should keep sacrificing to prove that you are loving. You can care deeply and still walk away. You can forgive and still protect yourself. You can understand someone and still decide that they no longer belong close to you. You can stop explaining. You can stop defending every decision. You can stop trying to make people comfortable with your healing. Your Father wants you to grow without apology. The source also describes a change in how your surroundings may feel. Some people may step closer. Others may fall away. Instead of assuming every departure is a loss, consider that some distance may be creating room. There are spaces you cannot fill with new possibilities while they remain occupied by old patterns. Sometimes removing something creates more room than adding something. You may need to clear physical space. You may need to clear emotional space. You may need to clear old messages from your mind. You may need to stop rereading conversations that only reopen wounds. You may need to stop visiting places online that keep you trapped in comparison. Protection can be very ordinary. Sometimes protection is simply refusing to go back. And your Father wants you to understand that not everything from your past deserves one more chance. The source uses the image of someone returning who once treated your heart like an option. Do not let nostalgia decide. Ask what is different now. What has changed? What evidence exists? Has the pattern actually ended? Or are you being invited back into the same cycle because someone misses what you gave them? You are allowed to choose differently. You can be compassionate without becoming available again. There is no shame in learning from history. That is what history is for. The message also says money may come, opportunities may open, and things may move more quickly. Remember your foundation. Do not spend to impress people. Do not rush to tell everyone what has changed. Do not let sudden progress make you careless. Quiet progress is often stronger than public celebration. Use opportunities to build stability. Use them to strengthen your future. Use them to become less dependent on situations that once controlled you. As you step into this next season, remember that your source is greater than your circumstances. Philippians 4:19 reminds us that God is able to supply every need according to his riches in Christ Jesus. That means your future does not have to be built from fear or scarcity. And when you choose to support this ministry, let it come from a willing heart, rather than pressure. If you feel led to contribute, there is a support link in the description and pinned comment. What you give can help sustain the work while you continue trusting God to provide for you as well. Let financial improvement create freedom, not another form of pressure. And if you receive a legal or financial document, read it carefully. Get advice where needed. Pray, yes, but also verify. Your faith does not require you to ignore details. The source also speaks about a great unveiling in which people begin showing who they really are. That may happen naturally when your circumstances change. People often reveal themselves when your success, boundaries, or independence changes the relationship. Some will celebrate you. Some will compete with you. Some will become distant. Some will suddenly become interested again. Do not chase the approval of any group. Watch. Learn. Then choose. A person's reaction to your growth can tell you something important, but it does not determine your value. Your father's message says there are people who may have overlooked you and later wonder how they missed your light. Do not live for that moment. Do not make revenge your motivation. Let your motivation be freedom. Let it be peace. Let it be the desire to become the person you know you can be. That is stronger than proving someone wrong. And when you are underestimated, remember that being unseen for a season does not mean you are unimportant. Some of the most meaningful work is done before anyone notices. Your father's message also touches the deepest part of your heart, the inner child still waiting for approval. That part of you may still want to hear, "You did well," so hear it again. You did well. You made mistakes, but you kept going. You lost your way sometimes, but you found your direction again. You felt afraid, but you continued. You had days when you did not know what to do, and somehow you made it through them. You are allowed to be proud of that. Not arrogant. Proud. There is a difference. You can honor your progress without pretending you have nothing left to learn. And there are people who will need the wisdom you gained. Your experiences may eventually help someone younger navigate grief. They may help someone leave an unhealthy relationship. They may help someone stop believing that a mistake has destroyed their future. They may help someone understand that asking for help is not failure. You may become the voice you once needed. There are moments when a message reaches you at exactly the time your heart needs it, and then it becomes your choice whether that encouragement stops with you or moves farther. Scripture reminds us in Isaiah 55:11 that God's word does not return empty. It accomplishes what he sends it to do. So if these words have strengthened you today, you can help extend that encouragement beyond your own screen. If you feel led to support this work, you can use the support link in the description or pinned comment. Your giving can help this channel continue creating messages that place hope, faith, and God's word in front of people who may be walking through a difficult season. What blesses one heart can reach another. That is part of becoming a legacy holder. You do not carry the legacy simply by remembering your father. You carry it by deciding what his life means through your actions. That is why your future matters. The choices you make now are becoming someone else's example later. Your children, nieces, nephews, students, younger relatives, friends, or people who simply watch how you live may learn from the way you handle this season. Will they see someone who stayed trapped in bitterness? or someone who chose healing? Will they see someone who repeated inherited pain? Or someone who interrupted it? Will they learn that love requires self-abandonment? Or will they learn that love and boundaries can exist together? Your father wants the second answer. And there is something else you have to release. The need to make your past make sense. Some losses will never have a satisfying explanation. Some betrayals will never receive an apology. Some questions may never have answers. Waiting forever for a perfect explanation can keep you emotionally stuck. You can move forward without understanding everything. You can accept that something was painful without knowing why it happened. You can accept that someone failed you without spending years trying to force them to admit it. You can accept that your father is gone and still love him deeply. Acceptance does not mean agreement. It means acknowledging reality so you can begin responding to it. And the Source's final movement toward peace depends on that. You no longer need to keep arguing with the past. The past cannot be changed. But the meaning you carry from it can change. What was once only loss can become gratitude. What was once only betrayal can become discernment. What was once only fear can become courage. What was once only grief can become compassion. Transformation does not erase the original pain. It gives you another way to carry it. So when the heavy days return, and they will sometimes return, do not assume you have failed. You may simply be touching an old wound. Pause. Breathe. Take care of yourself. Return to the present. You do not have to solve your entire life on a difficult day. You only need to care for yourself in that moment. And this is also why the Source tells you to rest. There is no requirement that every day be productive. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop. Eat. Sleep. Take a walk. Talk to someone. Pray. Sit quietly. Let your mind settle. Your future does not disappear because you rested. The world will still be there. Your responsibilities will still be there. And when you return, you may see them more clearly. Your Father's love, as the Source describes it, is not demanding endless sacrifice from you. It is asking you to become whole. There is a difference. A whole person can love without disappearing. A whole person can give without destroying themselves. A whole person can remember without becoming trapped. A whole person can receive without guilt. That is what you are being encouraged toward. And the message says, there will be moments when your inner world feels quieter. The weight in your chest may ease. Your smile may return naturally. You may wake up and realize that a memory no longer destroys the entire day. You may find yourself enjoying something without immediately feeling guilty. That is progress. Let yourself notice it. Do not minimize it. You are allowed to celebrate small evidence of healing. One day you may look back and say, that was the moment things quietly changed. Not because something supernatural suddenly solved everything, but because you finally began responding differently. You stopped chasing. You started choosing. You stopped explaining. You started living. You stopped expecting disaster. You started allowing possibility. That is a profound shift. And when you reach that point, your father's memory may feel less like a wound and more like a companion in the background of your life. Not a voice controlling you. Not a sign you have to chase. A quiet influence. A set of lessons. A love that helped make you who you are. There is still another part of the source's message about the future. You may find yourself drawn toward a new person, a new place, a new project, or a new direction. The instruction is not to rush. It is to recognize what feels peaceful, constructive, and consistent. Healthy opportunities tend to expand your life rather than consume it. Healthy relationships make room for your individuality. Healthy commitments allow room for reality. Healthy faith does not require you to abandon wisdom. Look for those qualities. They matter. And when you find them, do not sabotage them by assuming you are undeserving. You may have become used to struggling so much that peace feels suspicious. Give yourself time to adjust. You do not have to reject good things simply because they feel unfamiliar. And when someone kind enters your life, you do not have to make them prove that they will never hurt you before allowing the relationship to develop. No one can guarantee the future. Trust grows over time. Let it. There is a balance between being open and being careless. Your father wants you to learn that balance. And as you learn it, your decisions become less driven by desperation. You no longer have to say yes just because you fear being abandoned. You no longer have to stay because you are afraid no one else will come. You no longer have to accept poor treatment because you think loneliness is worse. Sometimes being alone is healthier than being continually diminished. Your father's message wants you to understand your worth before the next relationship arrives. Otherwise, you may ask another person to answer a question only you can answer. Am I enough? Yes. But you have to believe it enough to live accordingly. That means leaving when you need to. Receiving when you can. Speaking when something matters. Resting when you are tired. Choosing people who are good to your heart. And refusing to confuse suffering with love. There is another image in the source of your father's silhouette fading into light, not disappearing, but becoming integrated into your life. That is a beautiful way to think about memory. You do not have to hold the past in one exact form forever. The relationship changes as you change. When you were young, your father may have meant safety. Later, perhaps he represented advice. Now he may represent history, resilience, family, or a lesson about the kind of person you want to become. Meaning evolves. Love can evolve too. That does not make it less real. It means you are still growing. And there will come a day when you can remember him and think, I am okay. not because you stopped loving him. Because you finally learned that love can remain while pain becomes lighter. That is the direction this message is pointing you toward. Toward peace. Toward purpose. Toward a life where your grief no longer determines how much joy you are allowed to experience. And one day, when you are asked to be strong for someone else, you will understand why you had to learn this. You will know how to sit beside someone who is hurting without immediately trying to fix them. You will know how to listen. You will know what it feels like to need someone simply to stay. You will know that sometimes the greatest comfort is not an answer. It is presence. Your father gave you something you can pass forward now. That is another form of legacy. So continue. Continue believing in the possibility of healing. Continue building what you once thought was impossible. Continue learning to protect your peace. Continue becoming more honest. Continue making room for joy. And continue loving. Not the kind of love that erases you. The kind that strengthens both people. That is what you are being prepared to carry. The message is moving toward its closing, but there is still one final stage before the end. Learning to live without constantly searching for what has already been given. You have spent enough time looking backward for proof. Now look forward for purpose. Your father does not need you to remain in grief to prove that he mattered. He would want you to live. To laugh. To grow. To create. To love. To take care of yourself. To become the person you are capable of becoming. And when the day comes that you realize you are happy again, do not be ashamed. Be grateful. That happiness can be part of the legacy too. There is one final movement in this message, and it begins with a simple realization. You do not need another sign to prove that your life is worth living. You already know that. You know because you have endured. You know because you are still capable of loving after loss. You know because there are still things inside you that want to grow. The message describes this as the beginning of a divine unfolding, but at its heart, it is an invitation to stop waiting for life to become perfectly clear before you participate in it. You have already received enough to take the next step. Your Father's message says that the heaviness you have carried can begin to lift. The weight in your chest, the fog in your thoughts, the exhaustion that has followed you through certain seasons may no longer have to define your days. Give yourself permission to rest. There is no shame in your story. There is no shame in the scars you carry. There is no shame in admitting that some experiences changed you. You do not have to hide those marks to be worthy of a beautiful future. Let them become evidence that you made it through something difficult. The Source calls them proof of resurrection, and that image points toward a life rebuilt after loss, rather than a life permanently organized around it. Something ended. Something else can still begin. And there may be someone from your past who reaches out again. When that happens, remember everything you have learned. You do not have to answer from loneliness. You do not have to answer from anger either. Ing. Pause. Ing. Listen. Ing. Observe. Ing. Ask whether the person is offering genuine change or simply reopening an old door. Ing. Your intuition can help, but so can evidence. Ing. Look at the pattern. Ing. Look at the consistency. Ing. Look at whether their behavior matches their words. Ing. You are allowed to make a wise decision without feeling guilty about it. Ing. Archangel Michael says the heavens have been described as rearranging timelines around your readiness and obedience. Whether you take that as a spiritual picture or a reminder about your own choices, the practical point remains the same. What you do now matters. Ing. Your attention matters. Ing. Your choices matter. Ing. Your willingness to act matters. Ing. There may have been delays in your life, but delay does not automatically mean denial. Ing. Sometimes a pause gives you time to become the person who can handle the next chapter. Ing. Sometimes you were asking for a door before you were prepared for what was behind it. Ing. Sometimes you needed healing before you could recognize healthy love. Ing. Sometimes you needed wisdom before money could become useful rather than dangerous. Ing. Sometimes you needed boundaries before success would feel safe. Ing. That is why preparation matters. Ing. Do not waste this season waiting for everything outside you to change. Ing. Work on what is within your control. Ing. Strengthen your habits. Ing. Protect your peace. Ing. Finish what you have left unfinished. Ing. Make room for the life you say you want. Ing. The Source asks you to clean your space, organize your thoughts, and release emotional clutter. Ing. Do that. Ing. Not because it guarantees a supernatural event, but because your environment can influence your attention and your sense of readiness. Ing. A crowded room can reflect a crowded mind. Ing. A clear space can give you room to think. Ing. Write down what you have been afraid to say. Ing. Write down what you want. Ing. Write down what you are no longer willing to accept. Ing. Then look at those words honestly. Ing. That is how a new chapter becomes real. Ing. Your Father says there is no need to bring the weight of the old chapter into the next one. Ing. Turn the page. Ing. You are allowed to do that. Ing. You do not have to prove that your grief was real by refusing to heal. Ing. You do not have to punish yourself because you are still alive. Ing. You do not have to keep reliving a painful memory simply because it was the last thing you remember clearly. Ing. There is life beyond the final conversation. Ing. There is love beyond the final goodbye. Ing. And there is still purpose in the years ahead. Ing. The Source also describes familiar signs returning: a flickering light, a breeze when no window is open, a song you did not expect, a phrase that suddenly reminds you of him. Ing. Let those moments remain gentle. Ing. You do not have to chase them. Ing. You do not have to make every occurrence into a command. Ing. Let a memory be a memory. Ing. Let a song be a song. Ing. Let a breeze simply make you pause. Ing. The comfort can be real without requiring you to prove where it came from. Ing. Your Father says, you are not alone. Ing. That may be the sentence you needed most. Ing. Not because you will never feel lonely again. Ing. You probably will. Ing. But because loneliness does not mean that your life has lost meaning. Ing. You can reach outward. Ing. You can call someone you trust. Ing. You can sit with people who care about you. Ing. You can pray. You can ask for support. You can speak honestly about the grief you carry. You do not have to isolate yourself in order to honor the person you lost. And the source gives another powerful image. Your father saying he did not go far, that he simply went ahead. That is a poetic picture of a bond that continues through memory and influence. He is not asking you to remain in the place he left. He is asking you to continue, to move, to create, to become. And every time you make a healthy choice, the message says, you are carrying part of that love forward. Every time you choose courage instead of fear. Every time you choose honesty instead of pretending. Every time you choose peace instead of revenge. Every time you choose growth instead of repetition. You are continuing something. There is a reason the source repeatedly calls you a legacy holder. You are carrying something that did not begin with you. But you also have the authority to decide what ends with you. That is where the message becomes especially important for your future. You can decide that certain patterns stop here. You can decide that children in your family will hear encouragement where you once heard criticism. You can decide that apologies will be spoken instead of swallowed. You can decide that people will be allowed to say they are hurting without being shamed for it. You can decide that asking for help is normal. You can decide that love will not require fear. Those decisions may never appear dramatic, but they can change generations. And your father wants you to see yourself as more than the person who survived his death. You are a person with a life to build. There are still relationships waiting for you. There are still opportunities you have not heard about. There are still places you have not visited. There are still ordinary mornings when you will wake up and realize you are looking forward to the day. Do not assume the best moments are behind you. That belief can become its own form of grief. The best moments may still be ahead. Not perfect moments. Real ones. The kind that arrive unexpectedly and make you laugh. The kind that make you feel safe. The kind that remind you why you kept going. And if you believe your story still has beautiful chapters ahead, write, "I am moving forward" in the comments. Let it be your personal declaration that grief will not stop your growth. Your past will not control your future, and you are willing to keep walking into what God has prepared for you. Your father's message says that the person coming into your life should feel like home, like clarity, like rest. Keep those qualities in mind. Healthy love should not constantly make you confused. It should not require you to chase. It should not make you question your value every day. It can still be challenging. No relationship is perfect. But it should allow you to remain yourself. And when the right kind of support arrives, do not reject it merely because your history taught you to distrust kindness. Let people earn trust gradually. Let relationships develop naturally. There is no need to force intimacy. There is no need to rush commitment. Peace has a pace. Respect has a pace. Trust has a pace. Honor that. The source also says your life's blessing may touch your finances, your relationships, your decisions, and your future. Let that become a reminder to think holistically. Do not measure success only by money. A wealthy life can still be empty. A meaningful life includes peace, health, community, purpose, time, love, self-respect, freedom to make choices. Those things matter too. And when money does improve, let it support the life you actually want, instead of becoming another way to impress people who never valued you. You do not need to announce every blessing. You do not need everyone to know what changed. Some things are strongest when kept between you, your values, and the people you genuinely trust. The source also describes an inner shift where ideas begin arriving with urgency and clarity. When that happens, capture them. Write them down. Explore them. But do not confuse excitement with instruction. Some ideas need planning. Some need research. Some need more time. A good idea can survive a thoughtful process. You do not need to rush simply because something feels powerful in the moment. And if an idea affects legal matters, finances, health, or major family decisions, bring qualified people into the conversation. That is not a lack of faith. That is wisdom. Your Father's message wants you to become wise enough to know when to pray, when to wait, when to ask questions, and when to act. That balance will protect you. There is also something to be said about the people who no longer belong in your life. Your Father says you will no longer chase what is already yours. That includes attention, respect, friendship, love, recognition. You should not have to beg for the basics. You should not have to perform to be chosen. And you should not have to keep competing with someone else for a place that should be freely offered. When someone values you, you can feel the difference. Not because they constantly flatter you. Because their behavior is consistent. They show up. They listen. They respect your boundaries. They care about your well-being. They are not secretly hoping your insecurity will keep you dependent. Choose that kind of connection. The source also says, you do not need to explain your evolution to people who have committed themselves to misunderstanding you. That is a lesson in conserving your energy. Not every criticism deserves a response. Not every accusation needs a defense. Not every rumor needs correction. Sometimes the healthiest answer is simply to keep living. Your life will eventually make your priorities clear. And if someone chooses to walk away because you became more honest, let them. You do not have to drag them into your healing. Your Father says the people who matter will see the light, while the people who do not can continue walking their own path. That is not cruelty. It is acceptance. You cannot control what everyone sees. You can control how you live. The message then reaches the moment where it speaks about the things you did not say before your father passed. This may be one of the most painful parts for you. The apologies. The gratitude. The love. The questions. The moments you wish you could revisit. Let yourself speak those words now. You can say them quietly. You can write them down. You can say them in prayer. You can say them through tears. You do not need permission to finish a conversation inside your own heart. Your Father says every I love you did not get to say can still be carried. Every I forgive you can still be expressed. Every thank you can still be spoken. Every tear can still become part of the healing. This does not change history, but it can change the way the memory lives inside you. And you do not need to be strong every minute while doing it. Be tired. Be angry. Be confused. Be relieved. Be grateful. Be joyful. Human emotion is complicated. You are allowed to feel several things at the same time. Your Father's message says He loves every version of you, even the versions you considered difficult to love. That is important because many people spend years believing they have to become perfect before they are worthy of compassion. You do not. You are worthy now. And from that place you can grow. The message then asks, so what now? Now you live differently. You speak truth because silence has already cost you too much. You honor your time because you understand that it cannot be recovered. You love deeply because that is part of who you are. But you also protect your heart. Love without boundaries can become exhaustion. Boundaries without love can become isolation. You need both. That is maturity. Archangel Michael calls this the activation. Not an instant transformation where every problem disappears. A shift in how you respond. A shift in what you tolerate. A shift in what you believe about yourself. A shift in the kinds of decisions you make. A shift in how quickly you return to peace after something difficult. That is real change. And when the difficult days return, your goal is not to become someone who never grieves again. Your goal is to become someone who knows how to carry grief without letting it destroy the rest of life. That is strength. Your Father's image at the end of the source is simple and powerful. He is standing with pride, watching you. The message says He tells you that you are ready. Go now. Become what you were always capable of becoming. Do not wait until you feel completely fearless. Courage rarely arrives as the absence of fear. It is the decision to continue while fear is present. You can be afraid and still act wisely. You can be uncertain and still move. You can miss your Father and still build a future. You can remember the past and still enter the next chapter. The message says, love like your Father's does not die in the way ordinary things disappear. It changes form through memory, influence, and the way that love shapes your life. That is something you can carry. And when you feel yourself becoming discouraged, remember what you have already learned. You do not have to chase everything. You do not have to fight everyone. You do not have to explain yourself constantly. King. You do not have to keep returning to what has already shown you its limits. King. Choose what gives life. King. Choose what expands your capacity for peace. King. Choose what helps you become more honest. King. Choose what makes you stronger without making you harder. King. There is another image near the end of the source. A final light, a quiet space, and the sense that the message has become less about the words on a screen and more about what you do after reading them. King. That is where this should land. King. Not with dependence on another message. King. Not with fear that you will miss a hidden sign. King. With action. King. With reflection. King. With peace. King. You are the one who has to live tomorrow. King. You are the one who has to make the next decision. King. You are the one who has to care for your body, your mind, your relationships, and your future. King. And you are capable of doing that. King. The source says that the person who opened this message is not exactly the same person who will walk away from it. King. You know more now about what needs to change. King. That awareness matters. King. Perhaps you have realized that you have been holding on to one memory for too long. King. Release it. King. Perhaps you have realized that a relationship has become unhealthy. King. Set the boundary. King. Perhaps you have realized that you are exhausted. King. Rest. King. Perhaps you have realized that you want to try something new. King. Begin preparing. King. Perhaps you have realized that you want to be closer to God. King. Pray. King. You do not need to act on every feeling at once. King. But do not ignore what you know. King. Your Father says you are closer to him now in understanding than you were before. King. Not because physical distance has disappeared. King. Because you have begun to understand what his love meant and what you want to do with it. King. He wants you to crave what aligns with your values. King. He wants you to stop tolerating what repeatedly dims your confidence. King. He wants you to protect the openness in your heart without giving that openness to people who misuse it. King. He wants you to recognize the difference between someone who takes advantage of your softness and someone who honors it. King. That discernment will help you. King. There will be people who notice you changing and ask what happened. King. You do not owe them a long explanation. King. You can simply smile. King. Sometimes growth speaks for itself. King. And when a song suddenly overwhelms you, let the tears come. King. When a memory catches you off guard, pause. King. When you sit alone and think about what could have been, do not punish yourself for wondering. King. You can miss him. King. You can wish things had been different. King. And still choose the life that is here. King. Your Father's message says, the connection is now carried in your spirit, your walk, your breath. King. That is poetic language for something deeply human. We carry the people we love into the way we live. King. Their influence enters our habits. King. Their words become our own. King. Their values become part of our decisions. King. Their mistakes teach us what we do not want to repeat. King. Their strengths become resources we draw upon. King. That is how people continue through us. King. You do not need proof beyond that. King. There is a sacred pause in the source, a space between who you were and who you are becoming. King. Stay there for a moment. King. Do not rush. Ing. Notice what you feel. Ing. Notice what you want. Ing. Notice what you are ready to release. Ing. And ask yourself one final practical question. Ing. What would it look like to live as though your future actually matters? Ing. Maybe it means taking your health seriously. Ing. Maybe it means walking away from someone who continually harms your peace. Ing. Maybe it means applying for the opportunity you have been afraid to pursue. Ing. Maybe it means saving money. Ing. Maybe it means forgiving yourself. Ing. Maybe it means finally resting. Ing. Maybe it means telling someone you love them. Ing. Whatever it is, take the next honest step. Ing. The message also reminds you that you are not unfinished. Ing. You are not unloved. Ing. You are not alone. Ing. You are the living continuation of everything in your family story that was worth preserving. Ing. And you have the power to decide what gets carried forward. Ing. You do not need to carry every wound. Ing. You do not need to inherit every fear. Ing. You do not need to repeat every pattern. Ing. You can carry the love and leave the pain where it belongs. Ing. You can take the lesson without taking the burden. Ing. That may be the greatest freedom hidden inside this entire message. Ing. Your Father's love can become a source of strength without becoming a reason to remain stuck. Ing. And as the final moments approach, the Source asks you to imagine your Father saying that there is no goodbye in the sense of love disappearing. Ing. There is only continuation. Ing. Continue believing in what is good. Ing. Continue rising after setbacks. Ing. Continue choosing healthy love. Ing. Continue creating. Ing. Continue forgiving yourself. Ing. Continue becoming. Ing. That word matters. Ing. Continue. Ing. You do not have to know exactly where the road ends. Ing. You only have to keep walking. Ing. And when the next storm comes, remember that storms are not evidence that everything has failed. Ing. You have survived storms before. Ing. You know more now. Ing. You have more tools now. Ing. You have more wisdom now. Ing. You are not the same person who entered the last storm. Ing. That matters. Ing. So when life becomes difficult again, do not immediately assume you are back where you started. Ing. You are not. Ing. You are carrying everything you learned. Ing. Your Father's love remains part of that learning. Ing. And when peace returns, let yourself enjoy it. Ing. Do not question it, simply because you became familiar with struggle. Ing. Peace is allowed to stay. Ing. Joy is allowed to stay. Ing. Good people are allowed to stay. Ing. Healthy opportunities are allowed to stay. Ing. You do not have to sabotage good things because you are waiting for them to disappear. Ing. Learn to receive. Ing. Learn to trust slowly. Ing. Learn to breathe inside a good season. Ing. That is another kind of courage. Ing. My beloved child, before we close, let this be the part of the message you keep. Ing. You do not have to become someone else to be worthy of love. Ing. You do not have to erase your past to have a future. Ing. You do not have to stop missing your father to start living again. Ing. You do not have to pretend that everything was perfect. Ing. You only have to become honest about what you want to carry forward. Ing. Carry the love. Ing. Carry the wisdom. Ing. Carry the courage. Ing. Carry the humor. Ing. Carry the lessons. Carry the compassion. And release what keeps you trapped. The final picture is not one of you standing at a grave. It is one of you standing at the doorway of the future. Behind you is everything that shaped you. Ahead of you is everything you have not yet lived. Your father's legacy is behind you as history and within you as influence. But the road ahead is yours. Walk it. Do not shrink. Do not beg for crumbs. Do not surrender your peace to people who do not know how to handle your growth. Do not apologize for outgrowing what once kept you small. Do not confuse loneliness with failure. Do not confuse attention with love. Do not confuse chaos with passion. Do not confuse fear with intuition. And do not confuse grief with the end of your life. Grief means someone mattered. Healing means you are learning how to let that matter without losing yourself. Your father's message says you are ready. So go. Build what he could not finish. Love in the ways you wish you had received. Protect the people who depend on you without abandoning yourself. Create a healthier pattern. Give your children, your family, and the people who come after you something different. Let them inherit more peace because you were willing to heal. Let them inherit stronger boundaries because you learned to speak. Let them inherit greater freedom because you stopped repeating old cycles. That is legacy. And when you someday look back, you may realize that the greatest gift left to you was not an object. It was the opportunity to become fully yourself. That is what the spiritual inheritance in this message represents. Wisdom, strength, discernment, love, courage, and the willingness to keep going. Now breathe. Let your shoulders drop. Let the room become quiet. Think about your father one more time. Not only the moment of loss. Think about the life. Think about the memories. Think about what remains. Then say in whatever words feel honest, Dad, walk with me. Let those words be a prayer. Let them be a memory. Let them be a reminder. Let them be the beginning of your next step. And when you stand up from this moment, take your life with you. Do not leave it here. Do not leave your dreams here. Do not leave your future here. Take everything that helped you. Take the love. Take the wisdom. Take the strength. Then continue. My beloved child, if this message gave words to something you have been carrying in your heart, you can leave a gentle comment below and simply share what you are choosing to release or what you are choosing to carry forward. You do not have to explain everything. And if you know someone who is walking through grief, loss, or a difficult transition, consider sharing this video with them. Sometimes one caring message arrives at exactly the moment a person needs encouragement. If this video has helped you, you can like it and subscribe to the channel so you can return whenever you need a quiet place for prayer, reflection, and encouragement. And for anyone who wants to go deeper, the link is available in the description and pinned comment. You can also find the support link there, which helps this channel continue growing and allows us to keep creating messages like this. If you choose to give a super thanks, receive it simply as an expression of support for the channel, never as something required for a blessing. Now let the final words settle gently. You are loved. You are still here. You are still growing. You are still capable of joy. Your Father's memory can walk with you without holding you back. Your grief can become compassion. Your pain can become wisdom. Your history can become a foundation rather than a prison. And when tomorrow comes, meet it with a steady heart. Let your Father's love remind you to be brave. Let your own wisdom remind you to be careful. Let your faith remind you that you do not have to know everything at once. Let your future remind you that the story is not over. You are not unfinished. You are not forgotten. You are not without purpose. You are a beloved son or daughter, a living part of a family story that is still unfolding. You carry a legacy, but you also carry freedom. You can honor the past without living inside it. You can love your Father without refusing to live. You can remember him without making grief your permanent home. So keep your hand over your heart for one more breath. Inhale slowly. Exhale completely. And carry this with you. The love that shaped you can still guide you, but your next chapter belongs to you. Walk into it with courage. Walk into it with wisdom. Walk into it with peace. And when the world becomes loud again, return to the quiet place inside you where love remains. And before you leave, take a moment to like this video as a simple act of agreement and faith. Let that action remind you to stay open to God's favor, His direction, and the good things you are believing to unfold in your life. Your Father's story continues through the way you live. Your healing continues through every honest choice. Your legacy continues through every life you touch. You do not have to be perfect. You only have to keep going. Let tomorrow find you standing. Let the next season find you ready. Let your heart learn that joy is safe again. And when you finally smile without guilt, sleep without buffer, love without chasing, and move forward without looking back every few steps, remember this moment. You were allowed to begin again. You were allowed to be happy. You were allowed to become. And whatever your faith tells you about heaven, whatever you believe about the soul, one truth remains within reach. Love leaves a mark. You carry yours. Carry it gently. Carry it wisely. Carry it forward. And when the days are hard, remember the simple words. Dad, walk with me. Then take the next step. And the next. And the next. Until you realize you are no longer simply surviving. You are living. You are growing. You are becoming. And you are carrying love forward in a way no loss can erase. Amen.